Welcome in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is SEC Tournament Day, Wednesday, March 12th. Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com, apps in your app store. We're live on YouTube. Always can watch the show there as the SEC Tournament will get going today. Not just the SEC going to start today. Big West, Big East, Big Ten, Mountain West, A10, and the American All-Star today. All those conference tournaments will begin today. We have more conference champions that will be announced today. We have conference champions that were crowned last night. So a lot of college basketball again today. We are going to start talking some college football, though, some spring football. Georgia begins yesterday. Roddy Nabulsi is going to join us today, give us an update on injuries, position battles, what we learned about the team yesterday, hearing from Kirby Smart and that coaching staff, and we'll begin to discuss that. It is becoming a little bit alarming, though, Greg, as somebody who liked Florida to win this SEC tournament. I feel like almost every individual that I have heard predict this tournament has now picked the Florida Gators to win it, which gives me just a little bit of caution that the Florida Gators will actually go on and win the Southeastern Conference tournament.
But they still, I think people are acknowledging what you acknowledged early in the week is that they have the easiest path. Does it mean they're going to win it? Not necessarily, but they have the easiest path. And I think people are hedging their bets. They're coming in at the moment at plus 250. Auburn is the favorite at plus 155. So Auburn right now is generating the most buzz, but Florida's a close second. Alabama's third at plus 500. A&M is fourth at plus 600. Tennessee is fourth at plus 600, followed by a handful of teams at plus 2,000. So very top heavy with the four teams that were given that first 2-round bye. But right now it appears like Vegas is all in line with either Auburn or Florida to win the SEC.
Is there a game that's most interesting to you today? One that you feel like maybe a real threat to go into Saturday, possibly Sunday, is going to be playing in?
Yeah, I mean, the Arkansas team is one that I've said for a while, and at least I enjoy watching them. They're a little hit or miss. When I say a little, I mean a lot. Sometimes they look great. Sometimes they look very average. But they are a team that I think can beat anybody in the league if they were to put it all together. So that's the team that I'd want to pay the most closest attention to, because I think that's a team that could legitimately win the entire tournament if they got hot.
Absolutely. Arkansas with Big Z. I think you look at Trey Johnson in Texas. I think I start to look at individuals that could sort of go off. We talk about takeover guys in college football sometimes, guys who could go in, take over a game, take over a tournament. I mean, we've seen it both in conference tournaments and in the NCAA tournament, who maybe has those guys that could potentially go out and do that. And I think at least with the early teams, obviously you're playing today because you're not one of the better teams in the league. That's just kind of what it is. And there's not really a lot of denying that. What can get you over the hump with that a lot of times, in my opinion, are guys that can go out and do that, put together, a couple of 28, 32-point performances and pull ahead of some other teams that may not have that type of player. So I think that's kind of where my focus goes in a day like today for the SEC tournament, is who has that guy that could maybe help propel their team into the next round or two.
Yeah, I mean, at this time of year, don't people always say it's pros that end up elevating everybody else? Everyone talks about great guard play in the tournament. That matters, of course, but I saw Zach Edey take Purdue the distance last year, so maybe it's not all about guard play. It's really all about pros. Who's got guys that can elevate and who's got guys that can take over the game? And in the event in which the team is struggling, who's that one dude that'll carry them like Kemba did? I think there's a million examples of guys that have done that in the tournament. And I think the tournament for me starts today if you're an SEC fan, because several teams will have their seasons conclude on the court tonight without the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting, and also one that I'm fascinated to see how it all works out.
Josh Hubbard, Mississippi State, Trey Johnson, Texas, kind of be those guys that you're watching today. Maybe Jason Edwards for Vanderbilt, Big Z for Arkansas, that could kind of get things going, help propel their team up. You got Jeremiah Fears, Jalen Moore, both at Oklahoma, that potentially could do that. It's going to be fun to watch because it's wall-to-wall basketball as far as the Southeastern Conference is concerned, but also just in general. I mean, we've got basketball all day today. 2 more automatic bids come down yesterday. We have the CAA winner, UNC Wilmington. The Seahawks are going to make their 7th NCAA tournament appearance. They are 1-6 all time in the NCAA tournament. They're 27 wins this year, tied for second most ever in school history. And we actually are going to get it. We discussed it yesterday. The possibilities of it happening. And folks, we were able to pull it off. Yesterday in the Northeast Conference Final, St. Francis takes down Central Connecticut. But just kind of in general here, let me slow down.
Oh, boy.
For conference tournament, specifically conference finals last night, we had some patches of rough basketball. But hey, some of these teams are moving on to the NCAA tournament. Doesn't matter. Both teams are going to go. But for example, yesterday in the West Coast Conference Final, Gonzaga and St. Mary's shot a combined 1 for 31 from 3. 1 for 31 from 3. St. Mary's didn't hit one.
Not one.
0 for 16.
0 for.
0 for 16. Now, I don't know about the Orleans Arena.
Bad box score?
If they've got some of the depth perception issues, and that's going to be our excuse. But either way, not a clean shooting day. Although Gonzaga will move on. 58-51, now 25-8. Their 27th NCAA tournament appearance. That's 26 straight, by the way. Second longest streak actively behind. Anyone?
Duke.
No.
Hawaii.
Kansas.
Oh, that was close.
Which couldn't come to an end this year.
No, they'll bake it.
You think they just push them in?
Yep.
Okay. St. Francis yesterday gets the win over Central Connecticut, 46-43. 2 teams shot 31 and 30% from the floor, not from 3, where they were respectively 5 of 26 and 3 of 17, which is 19% and 17%. Now, St. Francis did shoot 3 of 7 from the free throw line. And your leading scorer of the game was Juan Crawford with 14 points. 2 players in double digits, as Devin Hurd had 13 for Central Connecticut. St. Francis is going on to the tournament.
St. Franny?
They're 16 and 17.
Ooh, not great.
They're in, though. They got hot at the right time, so they're in.
But that's part of the long debate. Are you better served in these conferences to send your conference championship from the regular season, or are you better served sending the team that won your conference tournament?
Go out there and win it.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, especially when you have all the pressure in the world mounting against you and you're a team like St. Francis that's 16 and 17 doesn't have anything to lose. It's a tough spot to be in. I hate it. I hate it when that happens, but it's just an unfortunate reality with how things are set up.
Another odd sort of statistical analogy, I guess, from last night. We do not get a 16 and 19 Delaware team advancing to the NCAA tournament. They actually go down in the CAA final to UNC Wilmington.
The Hens?
UNC Wilmington outscores Delaware off the bench 32-0. Delaware did not get a point off the bench. Not a single one. Like I said, 7th NCAA tournament. They're 1-6 all time in the NCAA tournament. Robert Morris going to the NCAA tournament. They win the Horizon League final. 9th NCAA tournament for Robert Morris. They have 26 wins this year, tied for most in a single season in school history. Their first Horizon League title, they came to the league in 2020. They led the game wire to wire last night. Josh Omiyafo, 23 and 13 last night. His first double-double of the season in the conference tournament final. Okay, I thought that was good. But 26 and 8 for Robert Morris.
Double-doubles to me sometimes in the current era of college basketball with how many shots are taken and so on and so forth. I don't feel like a double-double is as celebrated as it once was.
Should be. You still have to do something else other than just score points.
When Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double over the course of an entire season, I think that's when things kind of went sideways for the double-double.
Oh, I was also on a team that was sub 500, I believe. So, but this team just advanced to the NCAA tournament for the 9th time. And he's played 33 college basketball games, and that's his first double-double. So it's a good time to get it done and a good time to do it. So Robert Morris takes it last night. Here's what we will get tonight as far as more automatic bids to the NCAA tournament. And I would like to hear, since Greg brought it up, just from the listeners, 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. You can tweet into the show. You can text into the show as well, 205-834-9450. Do you like the automatic bids? Should they go away? Should it just go to the regular season winner? Or should it go where it's probably headed anyway, and none of these teams should ever get an invitation to the tournament no matter what, because they're not big enough, which is what a lot of people seem to want.
Do you really think that's good for it, though? I feel like so many people get on board.
I don't think people care about what's good for it. I think they care about what's good for them.
But I do think the average casual fan, which, I hate to break it to you, nothing is more casual than March Madness. Like, there's never been a more casual sporting event. All of a sudden, people that haven't watched college basketball all season long are telling me how dangerous Middle Tennessee State is. You haven't watched them. How do you know? Because you heard Clark Kellogg tell you that on Sunday's selection show? Like, I'm telling you, you don't realize this team, they are so good. They are so fun to watch, this Wofford team. Did you watch them in the Colonial? Hey, keep an eye on the St. Bonaventure Bonnies out of the A10. They are incredible. It is so fun to watch them. When did you watch them? What channel were they on? Like, nothing is more casual than the college basketball tournament, but I do think there is universal support for Cinderellas that make runs. I do think there's also a little bit of, once they get past, say, the Sweet 16, there is Cinderella fatigue. And when you get to the Final Four and or the Elite Eight, no one really cares about seeing the St. Pete's as much as they did in the first couple rounds, knocking out number 1 seeds. So I don't know how you see it, but I think Cinderella is extremely valuable to the tournament, and getting rid of them would be a huge mistake for the basketball committee and those that are making these decisions.
Middle Tennessee 21-10, by the way.
21-10?
Correct.
They're always good.
You threw them out.
They're always good.
They do appear to be dangerous at 21-10.
You do not realize how good this Morehead State team is.
When they had Janai Broom, they actually were pretty good, I would imagine.
I'm telling you, Murray State's one of the best teams in America. Really? I mean, like some of these guys, I mean, I feel like I'd sit around and feel like, I've been watching college basketball all year. I've never seen this. I've never seen this team play. But Clark and Kenny told me how good they were on the selection show, so they got to be legit.
You give Murray State a John Morant, and all of a sudden, they were right. They were dangerous.
Yeah. You think?
Occasionally, they can be accurate with what they're discussing and what they're referencing as far as.
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying the amount of certainty people have when describing who's legit is pretty amazing when they probably haven't watched them all year.
Would it be like people describing the course at Augusta National when they're watching the Masters?
No, because it's the same course every year. Like, you know what it is.
But they haven't been there.
The course doesn't change.
They've never putted on the green.
Doesn't matter. You don't have to putt on the green.
The
you know what
on
it
the
does.
Screen is, watch out.
I mean, it does. I mean, I don't think you have to have putted on it to know it's.
Ooh, you just, when this dog leg, the wind picks up down there around the hole. You just got it swirls.
Yeah, on 12, you don't know which direction the wind's blowing on at Augusta. I mean, that.
So tell me what it's like to hit into it.
It's the same thing every year. If Murray State had the same team every year, and you could, over the course of time, watch them develop and grow, then fine, I can live with that.
I'm just referencing things that casual fans act like they know everything about, other things.
Augusta is way more consumable than college basketball because it's like a 1-year reset. Every year you reset. Oh, Duke's legit this year. Well, they lose Cooper Flagg next year. What do they have? Name 2 players.
I haven't seen the future.
Exactly. Like, it's not you, it's everybody. I think college basketball tournament is the greatest indicator of casuality. Because I'm not sure there's a lot of people that are consuming mid-major basketball on Tuesdays. Maybe they are. Then I don't think there's a lot.
Well, I think the ratings would show that not a ton.
Between 17 and 21,000 people, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, which is not bad, but I know my boy that I'm going to sit next to at Odie's is not going to know a whole lot about what Mercer's bringing to the tournament this year, other than the fact that they have a good offense in football.
That's actually gone.
Yeah, it's a Navy though.
Right, but Mercer does not. They don't have that.
Mercer
anymore.
State.
They don't have it. It's not there anymore. They lost it. So, but it is. There are a lot of folks that are going to tell you.
You're going to have 7 friends that are like, I'm telling you, man, Troy is going to, they're going to probably make it to the Sweet 16.
They do have the Sun Belt Player of the Year.
I know. But I don't know that. I would love that. As a fan, I'd love that. But I don't know for sure. But if you get rid of mid-majors, you're going to have a huge issue.
Yeah. Mercer 14-19 this year, so I don't feel like they're very dangerous.
Good offense, though.
Not anymore.
Creative offense.
Yeah, no.
They run the triangle option offense.
It doesn't feel like it's very effective.
Their whole offensive philosophy is rooted in triple option.
They're 121st in points per game.
Yeah, but there's
243rd in assists per game. They do not like to share the
teams.
ball. They do not share the ball.
There's like 350 teams.
Now, 28th in rebounds per game. So you could also say you miss a lot, and that's why you get more rebounds. I don't feel like Mercer going to be one that we're talking about dangerous in this tournament.
No.
Not going to be there. We are going to talk about Georgia as being dangerous as it pertains to the SEC football season. How dangerous? What are we looking for? What do we want to see from the Georgia Bulldogs? Roddy Nabulsi joins us after this to discuss day 1 of Georgia spring practice. Ron Slay with us at 8:20 to preview the SEC tournament. And Josh Pate has a college football theory involving an SEC team that we need to discuss. He'll join us at 9 o'clock to do that. All that and more coming up today on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning as we try to get off the floor and get going here on a Wednesday, the first day of the SEC tournament. And if you're trying to get off your floor because you need a new one, Greg, you need to call Shannara Flooring.
Shannara Flooring does a great job. They're the trusted contractor that I would use if I was thinking about going with some new floors here in Birmingham. They have 40,000 square feet of CoreTech flooring in stock right now. That CoreTech is 100% waterproof, kid-proof, and pet-proof. It's ideal for kitchens, laundry rooms, bathrooms. You can put it anywhere, and it's going to add value to your home or business. They're so easy to clean. They're so easy to maintain, and they're going to be installed beautifully by a contractor you can trust like Shannara Flooring. So if you're thinking about making an adjustment to your floors, call who? Call Fu. Call them today at 205-518-6423. You can get 12 months financing with approved credit, or you can go online at fuandyou.com.
Mr. Thangums tweets saying, Greg has me cracking up about these fans hyping up the Cinderellas.
I mean, tell me you don't have a buddy that's like that. I have 7 of them. Like good friends. Bro, you have got to watch this team, Canisius. You can't even pronounce it right. Bro, Fordham, I've been reading about him. Huh. Fordham's got a 6'8" center that is one of the best layup machines in the game. Cool, because you read the little bio when you selected your bracket. I mean, the amount of people that speak with certainty, and I am one of them. Oh, dude, you got to watch Middle Tennessee. They run the floor. They're really fun. I've watched them once this year, and it was on accident.
The last friend that I had that went out of his way to hype up a team, I'll give him credit. And a lot of people,
did they win?
A lot of people in this town know who he is. His name's Bo Kerr, and he was like,
Who?
"Hey, man, you've got to watch this Wofford basketball."
Is that his
team.
first name?
His name is Bo. His last name is Kerr. And he said, "You've got to watch this Wofford basketball team." This is the last time I heard a guy like really go nuts over a small team. He's like, "They got this kid named Fletcher McGee that
His name is Fletcher McGee.
Everything."
Was
Correct.
that his actual name?
That was his name. And
All right, so there's a lot of things wrong with that sentence. One, I thought you were talking about the World Series of Boker there for a minute.
Boker?
Boker.
Oh, Bo, stop.
Like,
Space.
I'm going to lose
Kerr.
this hand on the river by playing Boker.
I don't know what Boker is.
Well, that's what I thought you said.
Ah, got
It was
it.
poker. So that was the first thing. Second thing, you said Fletcher McGee, and that to me feels like that's essentially the same thing as John Doe. It feels like a name that you just made up out of nowhere. Or like Charlie Center or Quincy Quarterback or Willie Wideout. Like, I feel like Fletcher Magee is like such a standard name. Oh, Fletcher Magee.
He would go on to hit 158 threes that year, which
Wow.
is fourth most all time. Only Darius McGee, Stephen Curry, and Antoine Davis have hit more in a season in college basketball.
Can you spell Stephen?
Stephen. It looks like Davidson. He played his college basketball.
Davidson.
Yes, he had 162.
Like the Branch Davidians.
McGee had 158, tied with Darren Fitzgerald at Butler for fourth all time in a single season. So, not a bad little guy. And I went and watched him play at Sanford, and it was like, okay, he's right. This dude's unreal. And then he, I think, completely fell on his face in the NCAA tournament.
Oh my gosh!
Either way, yeah, I said it the other day. He was like 0 for 19 or something.
Why you got to bring it up?
Because it happened.
Could he have played for? It
was a real thing. He would have NIL'd out of Wofford by now in this day and age.
Could he have played for St. Mary's or Gonzaga last night?
Absolutely, both probably.
Would you?
At the same time.
Could you have played for him at 1 of 31 or whatever?
I could have given him 2 or 3 minutes, and I probably could hit 1 3, but they didn't. It was a great game though last night.
Who would have more egregious fouls in the game if you played a college basketball game? You or Chad Baker-Mazara?
Me. Because I wouldn't be able to run the floor, so I would just have to foul to stop play because I would be
just
so gassed.
Tapping ankles as they're running away.
I'd be horse collaring guys when they're trying to run away, just yanking them to the ground.
Love that.
All right, we'll talk some SEC spring football, the Georgia Bulldogs, that is, with Rodney Nabulsi next on Mac and Cube in the morning. 7:25 Wednesday, March the 12th, right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Enough college basketball for now. We will come back to it. I actually have a basketball discussion generated by my 7-year-old that I want to get to a little bit later in the hour. I think it'll be an interesting discussion. There is one thing happening with his age group that I am having a hard time with, and we will discuss that later this hour. Now we need to talk Georgia Bulldogs. Roddy Nabulsi, who covers the Georgia Bulldogs, does it well, has joined us before, friend of the show, to discuss day one of spring practice. What did you go in wanting to learn? I know day one, Roddy, we're not really in pads, we're not full speed, but we do get to hear from coaches. We do get to see situationally where some guys will be or if they're even going to be out participating. What did you want to learn day one, and what did you come away with that maybe you didn't already know?
What I really want to learn is what's Georgia going to do on its offensive line. I mean, that's the number one question going around the University of Georgia, especially amongst the fan base. I mean, think about this. You have 4 guys that went to the NFL Combine, 4 offensive linemen, 4 out of 5. You're going to have 4 guys drafted, but you had the 102nd best running game. Now, we all know a lot more goes into the run game than just the 5 offensive linemen. There's a lot more to it than that, so I'm not putting it all on them. But just it's the disconnect that's, wait a minute, we could have 4 guys drafted, but we were, next to last in the SEC in running the ball. And granted, you had 2 of your top running backs were injured. 4 out of your 5 offensive linemen were injured. There's a lot more that goes to it, but it was just that you got to replace 4 different guys. So how are they going to line up? And we found out yesterday that Bo Hewley was working at left tackle. Micah Morris was at guard spot. Drew Bobo, who got a few starts last year, weren't injured. Jared Wilson was at center. Daniel Calhoun was working at one of the other guard spots. And Ernest Green, again, who you expected to be your left tackle the whole year until he was injured, was working at left tackle. So, right tackle, Bo. So that's what I wanted to find out, is how they were going to line up. And I guess the thing that I didn't know that we wanted to know the other part of your question there, is there going to be a real competition at quarterback? You know that Gunnar Stockton is the guy because he was the last guy to get a start, but Ryan Puglisi he's special. That is a guy who's really, really good. And you just want to know that Gunnar Stockton and Mike Bobo have a relationship that goes way back. Gunnar Stockton has the most experience. But is Ryan Puglisi going to get a real shot to be a quarterback? And they were told last year, when spring practice gets here, it will be a real 50-50 challenge, a real 50-50 toss-up competition. And we're told that it will be that, but it's just hard to covering Georgia football for so long. You always know that the incumbent leader gets those first reps. When they say, "Hey, we're going to go in order," so somebody's got to get the first snap. And it's usually the guy with the most experience, and that's usually the guy who wins the job. But I want to know that, hey, if Ryan looks a little bit better on day 2, does he get that first snap? And I think that's what we are going to see. I still think Gunnar Stockton is going to win the job, but I think Ryan Puglisi is going to be nipping at his heels the entire time.
Makes perfect sense. One big issue last year was just the inability to run the football. You got to assume that's a high priority going into this year.
That's priority number 1. Now, I do want to make a point. Georgia's defense did not do them any favors. You did not get a lot of turnovers. You did not get, the defense did not get off the field. It's hard to run the ball when you're only getting, 50, 60 snaps a game instead of 70 or 80. I mean, offense has to do its job, but it is a team effort. So I don't want to let the defense off the hook. We talk about how that did not look like a standard Georgia offense. That did not look like a Kirby Smart run the football first, team. But also it did not look like the defense that we normally are used to seeing from a Kirby Smart team. And they still won the SEC, facing the nation's toughest schedule. But yeah, the number 1 priority has to be establish the run. I mean, you guys have seen Kirby Smart, for his 10 years at Bama, his 10 years, this is year 10 for Georgia. He has always established the run. He has always won the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. That's priorities 1 and 1A. You got to think that that's what they're doing this year. I mean, the focus on spring is like, look, we're going to work on fundamentals. We're going to work on scheme. We're going to work on, these position battles. But we have to be able to line up and run the ball. I guess the number 1 thing that we saw last year that was concerning to Georgia fans, even though, again, they were tops in the SEC. 3rd and 1, you couldn't get it. And you had to throw the ball a lot. And people get mad at Mike Bobo for throwing screens, but when you can't run it, you tie your offensive coordinator's hands. So you got to be able to establish that to open up the rest of the playbook. And so I got to think that was between January 1st to March 11th, all the offseason work was we're going to talk about running the football. We can throw it all over the place, and they've made vast improvements in who they brought in to catch the ball. But all the scheming has to be, and the self-analysis and the self-scouting has to be, how can we fix running the ball? Because everybody sees that we can't, and once you know that they can't run the ball, we're going to take, we don't have to worry that hard about stopping the run. We're going to take away the pass now, and we're just going to make Georgia ineffective on offense.
Roddy Nabulsi of UGAsports.com at Roddy Nabulsi, R-A-D-I. Nabulsi joining us that's on Twitter, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. From an injury perspective, what did we learn? What did we take away? Guys who might not be going, maybe guys that you thought would be limited that will be going. What were we able to take away from yesterday?
11 players out, which I thought was excessive. But then Kirby Smart said, yeah, that's about standard. Last year we had 13 guys out. The year before that we had 12. The year before that we had 14. You had 5 different guys have shoulder surgery. Then Dalen Everett, your starting cornerback, had a sports hernia, so he's limited. But one of the guys we were kind of hoping to see was Monroe Freeling, but he's had shoulder surgery. Christian Miller, one of your star defensive players, also had shoulder surgery. So just there's going to be a lot of position battles, which we expected because so many guys are moving on to the NFL. And you had 14 guys go to the NFL Combine. So obviously there are positions all over the place that are open for new starters. But even the guys you expected to come in, you expect Christian Miller to be a starter, you expect Monroe Freeling to be a starter, Dalen Everett, absolutely, that's your best cornerback. Those guys are not going to be playing this spring. So, like we said, on that offensive line, one starter. And a couple guys with 2 starts, but just wide open. Same in the secondary. A lot of guys getting a chances because so many guys in the secondary are out or have changed. So, a lot of young new faces out there, mainly because of so many players are injured.
So many, it's wild. What about defensively? A lot of really important pieces to replace. I still think they have a really solid contingent. I'm a little questionable about the depth in a few spots, but I think their starting 11 should be as good as anybody. But I don't know if they have the obvious star-studded difference maker, especially along the line of scrimmage. So is there a guy in there that you think could develop into that?
Well, at inside linebacker, it's an embarrassment of riches. C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, these 2 guys are phenomenal. I mean, either one of them could win the Buckets Award. And remember, before Kirby Smart got here, they hadn't won the Buckets Award. Now they've got 2 or 3 of those things lined up over in the Butts Smear trophy case. So those 2 guys are ridiculously good. Justin Williams behind them and Chris Cole. Those guys came in last year, a couple 5-star guys who are going to be amazing. Not trying to fanboy over this. I'm just saying when you saw Chris Cole get 2 fumbles as a true freshman, and you see what Justin Williams can do, and you're like, wait a minute, these guys should anywhere else. They're on the field right now. But, hey, you had Smile Munden and C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson ahead of them. So you're like, wow, the Georgia's inside linebacker group is really good. And that worrying about the linebackers opens it up a little bit for the offensive line. You're so worried about getting to the second level, you might overlook a Jordan Hall or a Christian Miller, or a J.J. Haney or something like that. But outside linebacker, they are so thin. And you're right, there is no guy. I mean, when you had Nolan Smith, you knew that there was a generational talent on the field. When you had Devontae Wyatt, you had Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, the best defensive player I've ever covered in 33 years. You looked on the field and you saw those guys walking around. You're like, well, they ain't going to run it today because they're just different makers. Well, they don't have that on the defensive line. And at outside linebacker, they got nobody. I mean, it's just your best outside linebacker transferred to Missouri and Damon Wilson. Gabe Harris, that's the guy that, okay, when Georgia brought in 3 5-stars at outside linebacker, of which one is left, now Gabe Harris is out due to shoulder surgery. So you got to wonder about how they're going to set the edge. Who's going to be that pass rusher coming off the end. You're probably going to have to use a hybrid like you did with Jalen Walker last year. How do you replace Malachi Starks at safety? That's just tough. When you saw Jalen Walker out there, you saw what he did in the Texas game. You knew you had a guy that you could count on for a huge play. You knew Malachi Starks was going to do the crazy things that he did. In his first game, he has a crazy interception, and now he's gone. And there's just not that one guy you can point to and say, hey, let this guy get off the bus first, and he'll intimidate anybody who sees him. You just don't have that right now. So I expect the defense to be solid, but it's going to be a group effort, not, led 2 or 3 huge playmakers changing the outcome of the game.
Poor Kirby Smart having to use Jalen Walker off the edge. Not sure how he got through the season. Don't know how he'll make it. Roddy, always great stuff. We appreciate it. Things are moving there in Athens, and I'm sure we'll have you back soon to discuss.
Thanks, guys. Y'all take care.
Roddy Nabulsi covers the Georgia Bulldogs for UGAsports.com, giving us an update on some injuries, position battles. Tough to hear that, I would imagine, as a Georgia fan, and come away more confident than what you did prior to hearing that conversation. If you're maybe lacking confidence because of a sports injury, you might want to call Andrew Sports Medicine. There's a reason Auburn Athletics hand-selected Andrew Sports Medicine, Dr. Benton Emblem and Dr. Charles Pitts to serve as their team physicians. They provide the highest quality of sports medicine care in an effort to keep the Tiger student-athletes safe, healthy, and competing at the highest level. If Andrew Sports Medicine is the choice for Auburn Athletics, there's no doubt they should be your family's #1 choice for sports medicine and orthopedic care. Andrew Sports Medicine has 7 locations across Central Alabama: Birmingham, Coleman, Gardendale, Hoover, Pelham, Trussville. They offer same-day, next-day appointments for acute sports injuries. Visit andrewsportsmedicine.com today to begin your journey of achieving a victory over injury. Let's talk a little bit more Georgia and just teams that look like they are poised to win an SEC championship this season. Who might that be? Next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:40, Wednesday, March the 12th on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We'll talk SEC upcoming football season. As we just discussed Georgia with Roddy Nabulsi there. And considering who looks like they're going to be a player, going to be a real contender in the league this season, how many teams would you have on a list of teams that are capable of winning the conference right now, G-Mac?
I think there are 6 teams capable of winning the conference.
Okay, let's go through them.
Let's ride. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Georgia, believe it or not.
Okay.
You're on board there, right?
Yeah.
You didn't let Roddy talk you out of it?
You got close. Definitely not quite as confident as I was, but yeah.
I think they can win the conference. They won the conference last year. I think they're going to be in good shape. But there are a lot of question marks. The offensive line replacements are a problem, but they weren't good last year. That's what I'm having a hard time understanding with Georgia and all their fans' concerns about offensive line. They weren't good last year. What? You think they're going to be worse than last year? And don't give me this whole, well, they had 4 guys go to the combine. Come on. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Well, they did.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they're good. I didn't know going to the combine was an indicator of greatness.
I do think it shows that you did some things well.
No, it shows that you are 6'6", 330 and look the part.
Okay.
And you have a couple guys that are coming off some injuries and they want to go get tugged on in their elbows and knees and ankles and all this other stuff to make sure they're okay. Because 3/4 of the combine is medical.
Fair.
That being said, I think Texas can win the conference. That's 2. I think LSU can win the conference. That's 3. I think Alabama can win the conference. That's 4. I'm not sure that is going to come as much of a surprise to anybody. A notable omission there, Tennessee.
Yeah, because if you go to certain odds makers, they'll have Tennessee up there. Vegas Insider has Tennessee as with the 4th best odds to win the Southeastern Conference this year.
I don't have them there. I'm just concerned about all the replacements they have to make. I think they're going to be better on offensive line, though. Like, I think their tackles have a chance to be better. I'm hopeful. Granted, one will be a freshman, but we've seen freshmen play tackle before.
Yeah, but you're losing a lot up there.
You're losing a lot. And on the defense,
all I've heard for the last 3 years is that once they lose Cooper Mays, they don't have anybody else that can do it. And so now you're not going to be able to plug him in when he does get healthy. He's gone.
He's out. So all right, so I got Tennessee out right now. I also believe, and this might surprise some, but I am a big believer in the Texas A&M Aggies this year. A lot of 3 significant losses on defense. But I think an offensive line that returns intact, second-year quarterback boost, a group of wide receivers that is improved, and a defensive identity that's going to be one layer further down the road with Mike Elko's hands-on teaching approach. So they are number 5. And then number 6, who would you like to take a guess?
LSU, because you
already said them.
You love Nuss.
Already said them.
All right, so far you have said Texas, Georgia, Bama.
Yep. LAU.
You said LSU,
A&M.
A&M. Next in line for you would be.
I want you to take a guess.
I don't think you're going to go Ole Miss there.
No.
You do love that quarterback, though. Goodness
He's
gracious.
good.
Yeah,
Sorry for liking
that 2
good
series
players.
of football he played.
Watch him throw it. Just watch him. I know that's a weird thing nowadays.
It is because I've also heard you just talk about the combine where people get invited to because of how they throw it, not necessarily how well they throw it to other people.
How they look getting off the bus.
Oh, it was 68 on the radar gun.
Look, he'll throw.
Look,
there you go. Look how fast.
Look at the spin.
I am going to. It's got to be a team that's out there a little bit. I got one that's out there that I think will really make you mad. We'll get to that one in a moment.
I think people think that Austin Simmons is worse than Jackson Arnold because Jackson Arnold had 5 stars.
I don't even know how many stars either have. I'll say,
dude, you're gonna get it.
Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on.
But I will say this entire practice with. First off, A&M we need to have a conversation about.
Gladly.
It really does feel like, though, if you started to peel it all apart, it's kind of Texas, and then everybody else you're really having to stretch more to make a case for everybody else than Texas. It feels like right now.
Yes.
I there's a lot to like about Florida. I think the offensive line should be better.
Schedule's the worst part about Florida.
Schedule's tough, but you got 2 running backs that are capable. You have a number 1 receiver that's back.
I like their receivers. I
think
the receivers
health is
fine.
a big concern there. You and I have talked about the defensive line. You have a couple of guys that individually can make plays, can be a problem. And you got a veteran linebacker that's played a ton of college football coming back that can direct things and make plays. A lot of the secondary returns. The style of play I think is favorable to winning games later in this league.
Yeah.
Look what they did to Ole Miss last year. What'd they do? Ground and pound, won the line of scrimmage. I mean, all these teams that score a lot of points and have fast, athletic, skill position guys, as the year goes on and guys get more beat up, I think their style of play becomes a little bit more conducive with upsets, winning close games, things of that nature. I think there's more high percentage of winning situational football when you play the way they do, as opposed to the way that some other teams in the league play, like Tennessee when we saw in the playoffs. What happened?
You're going to happen in the playoffs. But back to the original point. You just said you don't like A&M, but you do like Florida for that reason, the ability to control and run the football. A&M rushed with really 1 running back in the final 5 games of the year for 195 yards a game. 195. If they had any depth at running back and a quarterback that was maybe a little more experienced, I think things would have worked out pretty well for A&M last year. That's why I like them. I think A&M's offensive line is going to be better. I think A&M's defensive line is going to be a step back for sure. But I also think that step back could lead to them potentially playing a little bit better down the road. Like, you look at how they lost to Auburn, not good. Bad performance for sure on the road. You look at how they lost to Texas, they couldn't get anything going offensively at all. But running it down Texas's throat at that point is not something that was likely. And then losing in the bowl game, it is what it is. But I am a believer in A&M this year. I don't think I need to sell you on the first 4, right? LSU, Bama, Texas, and Georgia.
Could make a real case, but we just heard all the issues with Georgia from Roddy Nabulsi. There are some other issues there are more issues with the other teams not named Texas there, but you're still getting a quarterback that hadn't played a ton of football. He's got 1 start. He's come in games a couple of times. We don't know that he's just going to be able to operate the offense in a magnificently efficient way. It might be great. It might not be great. We don't know. And by the way, speaking of offensive line problems, they got him too. You're losing a center that was a 5th-year player that basically directed the offense, changed your protections, got you in different run looks by himself. You're losing both tackles, another guard. That's you don't just plug and go with that, regardless of how you've recruited that position, because you don't have the experience that you did coming into last year. I think there's massive questions with a lot of these teams. It just feels like Texas has fewer, maybe many fewer of these bigger questions than some of the other teams do. But we'll see.
But Texas does have questions.
No, but absolutely.
That's
just
my
not
problem.
As big of questions as Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and A&M in my mind.
I don't disagree, but we are kind of giving Texas the benefit of the doubt. Like, Texas is a couple years removed from not being good at the line of scrimmage, offensively or defensively. 2 or 3 years removed from that. Now, 2 years ago, amazing on the D-line. Last year, great on the D-line. Like, I mean, but we are 3 or 4 years removed from them being pretty dang average on the O-line and the D-line.
Yeah.
And so it's not that far away. They have to replace 4 stars in the offensive line. That's not like no one wants to talk about that.
Let's just go here. All these teams we're talking about potentially winning the league, they all have offensive line issues. There's none that have real confidence with that group.
A&M doesn't. They got everybody back. I'm not saying they're an elite all-world group. At least I know what I'm getting.
And they ran the ball fairly well last year.
But second in the league.
I'm not going to say that group was just dominant last year.
No, they weren't at all. But they have all their guys back. So at least I know what I'm going to get. I'm not saying they're going to be great. I'm just saying I know what I'm going to get.
Maybe a little bit more comforting. I've got one that I'd like to throw at you that may get laughed at. We'll do that next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:53, Wednesday, March the 12th. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Going to discuss a little more SEC potential champions here in just a moment. First, Greg, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Polar Bear Services is the very best. I call them for everything. I mean, seriously, anything that goes on in my house, my first call is always to Weston and the guys. Spring is on the way, or it's here. I mean, you really look at it. It's been warm the last couple of days. We have some unpredictable weather, and we have some temperatures that are leading us to have AC running at full blast during the day, and then your heat running at night. That means your system is getting put to the test. So get your system checked by the experts at Polar Bear Services. They are an independent trained dealer. They can do system tune-ups, duct cleaning. They can do repair. They can do new installations. We know the hot weather will be here as well sooner than later. So make sure that your system is ready to keep you comfortable this summer. They also handle plumbing. They also handle home electrical needs. They can do a home generator system, which is super helpful during storm season. So they're serving all throughout Alabama. And remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bears. 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
I'm just throwing this out as an option to get your thoughts on, and I'm not saying I think this is the favorite. I'm not saying this is definitively a team that I'm going to pick to win the league, but if you're looking for kind of an outlier to win the league, what would you say if I offered up Missouri?
A lot of variables that you are banking on.
Which we're going to get from a lot of the teams we've already mentioned, just maybe
Correct.
a little bit fewer and less definitives. But you got the middle three of your offensive line coming back. You got a tight end that's going to be able to help with the run game, can do some different things to the passing game. You've gone and attacked the receiver position with Johnny Williams and Kevin Coleman out of the portal. I think running back with a couple of options that are coming in, like Ahmad Hardy from ULM.
Yeah.
Already run some of the stretch play, understands how that's supposed to operate. A quarterback that can give you a little bit more mobility. Zion Young, Chris McClellan back on your defensive line. You add Damon Wilson, who Roddy Nabulsi just mentioned a little bit earlier.
Do you think he's as good as Roddy went on?
I think he has that much ability. Yeah, I don't think he's shown he's that good of a football player yet, but he has that much ability. You got Marvin Burks back at safety, and if Jalen Catalon is healthy, all of a sudden you have Burks and Catalon at safety. I realize that's a big if, but there are certain things that are sort of aligning themselves for Missouri that I feel like they have an opportunity to be dangerous next year. Dangerous is what I'm saying, and feasible as
Good
opposed
schedule.
to which some teams don't have playing for them. Just a team I wanted to throw out as to, is it even possible?
I don't think you're really taking them, but I like the practice. I like the possibility. It's
Yeah,
a good
I
one.
think you can at least picture a scenario
For sure.
in which they're competitive or have an opportunity too late. I got an issue with some of my son's friends. We'll discuss it next. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569. You want to get in, talk teams you think can win the SEC championship. We gave you a couple long shots, a couple teams that some people may not like, some people questioning said teams that we have mentioned as potential SEC champions for not the basketball tournament that begins today, but for the college football season that comes here in a few months. I wanted to reference something that it's now happened to me a couple of times. And I think I've told you about one that has happened before. And that is one of my son's friends telling him that Babe Ruth was terrible.
Trash is what I was told. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Babe Ruth was trash. We got another one again yesterday. One of his friends came over and then we were on our way to our son's baseball game. He said, "Dad, was Shaq good?" I was like,
trash.
Well, yeah, son. Why? Like, we've talked about Shaq. I've showed you some videos of Shaq before. He's like, well, so-and-so said Shaq was awful and he wasn't a good player. And I was like, oh. And there have been a couple other instances of certain guys and this and that. I'm like, are the parents teaching the kids these things? Like, they got to be getting this from somebody.
Yeah.
Where do we get this?
Not sure.
And I said, well, son, and then I started thinking to myself, are we enamored with Shaq as opposed to how great he was? Like, where do we put Shaq in the realm of greatness? Because with the SEC tournament starting today, obviously he had a couple of SEC tournament runs, got run from an SEC tournament. But one of the most enjoyable SEC players to watch in the history of Southeastern Conference basketball. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We talked to Wimp Sanderson about him, how difficult he was to manage. Obviously, Hack-a-Shaq is where I think a lot of people are going to go with, maybe that might be a reason that they didn't think he was a great player because he struggled with free throws. But like, where do you put Shaq in the all-time realm of great NBA players?
I think he is the most dominant center of his generation.
One of the most dominant all time, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just make sure we're on the same page.
Different
here.
era.
We're not.
How can anybody push back on that? I don't understand. That makes no sense to me.
The best part was, and listen, I appreciate my son. I love him to death. He says, well, Dad, Wemby is 3 inches taller than Shaq. And I said, son, I'd pay good money to have Victor Wembanyama attempt to post up Shaquille O'Neal right now with both in their prime.
Spoiler alert.
Because
I can tell you how that's going to go.
Essentially would have been UFC worthy. May have broken him in half.
Dead on arrival.
But we won't really get that in today's basketball, so not sure what we're looking at. I don't understand why
cover him outside.
I don't understand why we're here. I don't understand how. Like, are moms and dads just telling their kids that certain players that were pretty good or great or all-time greats were terrible? I mean, I don't. I need to know.
Kids that are spending too much time on YouTube.
Who's telling them this on YouTube? Because I need to go find a way to get them canceled.
Logan Paul, probably.
I just went and did the math on it. And I was like, all right, let's go back and look. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe we were wrong. John, where do you put Shaquille O'Neal in the all-time list of basketball players? Like, is he up?
He's the greatest I've ever seen.
Because when you play the game with your friends a lot of times, like, give me your starting five.
Ooh.
Is LeBron or Jordan in the starting five? Like, and you're able to choose. At least half the people are putting Shaq as their five, right?
Yeah.
Like, who are you taking? Wilt?
Yeah.
Who kicked around a bunch of Bob Cousies?
See, but we're the same. But we're the same way. Like, you and I just pretend that we are Judge in Wimp Sanderson's era, and like, we're your sons. Wimp Sanderson's our dad. Oh, you guys didn't see. You didn't see Wilt. You didn't see. I mean, if you
actually have seen footage of Wilt, and most of the guys come up to his chest.
If you would have seen Bill Russell in his day, I mean, we mentioned before, it's generational
of all the people that we're putting out there. But how much time have we spent on shows talking about the greatness of Pistol Pete?
We had guys poo-poo that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, his daddy was setting up them shots. What was the word he used? His dad not facilitated,
I forget
but
what it was. It was
grand
so
fed
good,
him
though.
those shots.
No, it was such a good word. I loved the word.
His dad troughed them all up for him.
No,
his
word
dad
that he
gave
used,
him a buffet line of 2-pointers.
He was scooping. He was scooping buckets. I don't remember what it was.
That was it, but it was
something like that.
I had never heard it. What the gentleman referenced as essentially his daddy getting him shots, and then you look and see that he only scored about 2,000 more points than anybody else in the history of college basketball in a season. So, yeah, I'm sure his dad made that happen.
Yep.
It was all mop-up duty. But, yeah, they were getting blown out that bad every time. The teams weren't great. You can't argue that. I'll agree with you there. But and first off, he wasn't saying that, he's putting Wemby on his all-time basketball team. And I don't think that was their discussion. But I think a lot of people, even younger than us, even older than us, like I think Wimp Sanderson would at least debate having Shaq as his starting center. I think Wimp has that much basketball acumen inside of him to realize, hey, Olajuwon could give you something a little bit different. Kareem could give you a scoring threat option that really nobody had an answer for. Wilt Chamberlain was the most dominant player of his generation. But Shaq's at least in your discussion. He's a talking point with it. I don't think, no matter who you are, unless you're
who
7.
Be your top 5? I bet you they're
almost starting 5 or top 5.
You're starting
players?
5. You're starting 5. You're starting 5. So you can't have a guy. Oh well, we're going to play with 3 5s. Just like on the all SEC team, there's 4 left tackles.
There are no positions in basketball today.
It's positionless. Like I'll tell you mine.
Who's your starting NFL offense? Montana, Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Allen.
Real football, not fantasy football.
Jordan's in there first,
obviously,
no matter what.
Okay. Durr.
I think I'm going to probably have Bird in there.
Okay.
I personally would look at, if I have those 2 scoring options, I don't. What else do I need? I want John Stockton running the point.
Okay. I'm noticing a trend here.
I'm going to have Shaq at the 5.
Okay.
And then
Dirk at the 4.
What do we want? Okay, so at that point, I got all the scoring I need as far as being able to penetrate, kick with Jordan, hit from the outside with Bird. Like, what else do we need there?
Sean Bradley, rim protector?
No. Like, do we need Karl Malone? Do we need Barkley? What do you need right there? I'm probably just going to say, screw it. We'll take Kobe and just go with it.
Now you're talking. All right. So Kobe's in for sure for me.
You know how people are mad at me for not even having LeBron in my starting 5 right now.
LaFlop
feels intentional.
Yeah.
It's not intentional, but where is he? And
LaFlop.
Okay. We'll take Bird out and we'll put LeBron in.
There you go. That's probably appropriate.
We'll take Stockton out and we'll put Curry in. Shaq, Kobe, Jordan, LeBron, Curry. I don't feel like you're getting a ton of stops.
Who cares? It's fantasy. It's fantasy basketball. Kobe's in for me. I need that mentality more than anything else. Lock. Jordan. I already have 2 killers on the team now. Like 2 guys, high level defensive players, amazing. You got to have LeBron in.
That allows you to have LeBron's soft mentality.
Yeah, so that overcompensates for the weakness that is LeBron James. I don't care.
You have 2 dragons and a pony.
Yes. A Shetland pony.
Mini horse?
Mini horse. I think you got to have Shaq. Shaq, to me, no one was more dominant than Shaq in his heyday. I mean, in his heyday, no one's more dominant.
Who's stopping him? The Spurs used to make Rodman defend him because David Robinson couldn't.
You couldn't stop him.
And David Robinson's a top 50 player all time.
You couldn't stop the guy. And then now I need a 4. I have Jordan's a 2. Kobe can bring the ball up, make him the 1. LeBron can bring the ball up. I got 3 guys in the backcourt that can bring the ball up. We'll be fine. I got a 5 in Shaq. I need a 4. I'll probably go Karl Malone.
There's a lot of ways you could go there. Like Golf and Moose tweets in, Shaq, Bird, Jordan, Stockton, Duncan. Which
Duncan's a good one. But is he more 5 or 4?
I just don't feel we need that. I don't feel like we need baseline jumpers off the backboard. There's plenty of scoring. You almost need somebody to do a little dirty work here.
Oh, so you're going Rodman?
Or more defense.
Rodman?
So you can't take anybody who's played in the last 20 years if you want defense.
Bill Laimbeer?
I don't know. Like, I think you could probably go Joe Dumars right there and be fine and lock down whoever else was on the other end. I think with those other 4, it doesn't matter. But do you want to go more Dirk Duncan? Do you want to go more like you're saying? Do you want to go with a Dennis Rodman, like more of a defender type? Do you want to go with a Kevin Garnett?
No. Anything is possible.
Where do you want to go there?
I think it's I don't really care that much about my hypothetical defense that my hypothetical starting 5 is playing. I could care less.
You could put Bird at the 4.
Yeah, okay.
You could put Kawhi Leonard at the 4 and have another lockdown.
Yeah, but I'm only going to
guy.
get 30 games a year.
We're not playing a full season. This is a round robin tournament
How many we
to
got?
save the world.
Give me Yao Ming then. If we're going world,
He's on a different
I want to have
team.
fans.
He's not on our team.
He's on a different team. What team is it?
I don't. Not ours. I'm trying to think. Like Giannis, could you go there?
No. I'm not taking anybody from this current era. They're all soft.
You just put LeBron on your team.
LeBron's not from the current era. He's 50. This version of LeBron is a you know.
You want no
It's a
Steph Curry
shell.
on your team.
I like Steph. But yeah, I can
You'll
live
let him
without
come off the bench.
Yeah, he can be a sixth man. Energizer.
What about Durant?
I think he might be on mine.
Honestly, when you make LeBron seem hard, that's how soft Durant is.
Pippen?
I liked Pippen.
He can defend.
I always liked Pippen. I was always
He's a great
fan.
player. He's a top 50 player ever.
One of the most athletic guys going. Like I always enjoyed him. But
Maybe you just go Dominique just to get some great dunks and make it more entertaining.
no, I'm good. I think it would be pretty awesome to see a few more Detroit Pistons on the same team as MJ. I wouldn't hate that.
It's just frustrating that one, I don't know if it's the lack of knowledge. I don't expect them to know everything, but two, it's the definitive nature in which it's done. Like that 6 and 7 year olds know that Shaq was not good and know that Babe Ruth wasn't good. And I actually, my response to the Babe Ruth is trash. My response to that was ask him if he's seen the tape on Babe Ruth. Literally, it's what I asked him to go to school and ask him the next day.
The thing that's bothersome is not that they're like, oh, he's not as good as the guys that are playing nowadays, because I don't disagree with that. Like, I acknowledge that guys that played in 1968
fair opinion,
are not as good as the guys playing today. The worst player in the NFL right now would be the best player in 1968. Do you realize that? I know that people don't want to think that. I know it's like a foreign concept, but the worst player in the National Football League today, your core special team 15-year player, would be the best player 50 years ago. Why? Because he's going against a bunch of guys that have no idea what to do from a diet standpoint, no idea what to do in taking care of their body. They're smaller. They're not as strong.
How many yards would Patrick Ricard run for in 1969? 3,000?
Dude, I mean, honestly, the defensive lineman?
He'd be bigger than his whole offensive line.
Yes, by far.
He might run for 4,000. And would be running away from DBs.
He would not be stopped.
And be running away from DBs.
He would not be stopped. And
Patrick Ricard, if you don't know, is a 6'3", 300-pound fullback for the Ravens.
It's not the 1968 linebackers' fault. It's just modern technology and advancements did not allow them the information to become great players. And guess what? When they got done with the season, they probably had to go work in their dad's, oil factory. Like, I don't know what they did. Like, it wasn't a full-time job back then. They were going to the local pool hall after practice.
Yeah.
I mean, they were literally smoking at halftime.
Yeah, it's
so I'm okay with the kids
not
nowadays.
Good at all, though. Like, just
trash.
He just not good. Shaq just wasn't good.
No, when they say trash, it's bad.
And what I've tried to tell him too is I was like, son, let me just for starters, if anyone is in any league for an extended period of time, they are not trash. You're not allowed to say that in this house. If they are getting a check to play a game, they are not trash. That's it. Sorry. So I went and looked up the numbers for Shaq, if you're wondering at home. And you're thinking to yourself, was he great? Was he not great? What do you think Shaq is all-time in points leaders in the NBA? Top what? 20, 50,
yeah,
80?
20.
John?
15.
He's 9th. So we have kids walking around on this earth that are talking about top 10 scorers in NBA history that are trash players. 8 more players that ever lived, that ever breathed on this planet have more points than he does, and we have human beings saying that he's not good at what he did.
Well, they're kids.
Where do you think he was in rebounds?
Top 6.
Third?
15th all time.
Okay.
Blocks. By the way, he is 6th all time in offensive rebounds.
What I think is amazing is like the modern kid nowadays, they want to like not just beat the guy they're playing against, but embarrass them by like doing some stupid stuff like, 3 goggles and all that other nonsense. I mean, like kids want to dance after they made a layup nowadays, and the parents allow it. It's amazing to me. We also are living in a world in which kindergartners have walk-up songs. So don't even get me started with that. All right, you want to go down that rabbit hole? I'm happy to go down that rabbit hole right now.
Blocks.
Between that and the pay for play all-stars. I've about had it.
Blocks all time.
But here's the thing.
I'm going to finish this.
LeBron. Shaq would thrive in this era of humiliating the opposition.
Yes, because he pulled the entire backboard down on your head.
100%. Like he embarrassed
people. He was
people.
made for now.
He
was
100%.
literally a YouTube player then.
He was, exactly. So that's why I'm amazed that the kids nowadays, of all people, that they would push back on.
I tried to explain it to him last night. I showed him the video. I said, son, he didn't just break the backboard. He broke the literal hinges of the entire goal, and it all collapsed onto the floor. And his question was, how did they finish the game? I was like, that's what your takeaway from that? A human just did that. He was 8th all time in blocks, by the way.
8th?
8th, 2,732. So top 10 in 2 major categories statistically. He was 7th all time in field goals made, 3-time finals MVP, 4 championships, 1 an MVP, 1 a rookie of the year, 2-time scoring champ. His number is retired for 4 different teams. And he has a gold medal.
Trash.
For your country, kid.
Trash.
He won you a gold medal for your country, kid, and you're walking around saying he's trash.
Still trash.
What are you going to do next? Tell me Bruce Jenner's trash?
Bruce isn't.
Andrew Turner with a good tweet into the show. At Cole Cubelic, 9th all time in scoring without 3s or free throws. Pretty much all 2s. Yeah. Parentheses, dominant.
There's no one more dominant than him back in the day.
Michael Kirby tweets in, I would have to disagree a little bit about getting a check for playing a game because Ben Simmons is literally trash. Here we go. What are you, 7? You do not get to there being trash. Now, if you would like to say that he is one of the worst players there at that, because if you walked out there and tried to play, what would you then be considered if he is trash? I mean, listen, I'm sorry. I'm not going to let my kids say even a guy batting 150 in Major League Baseball is trash because he got to Major League Baseball. We ain't doing that in my house. Sorry. I know people don't like that. And like Greg says, like, today is the YouTube era. We got to tell everybody that they're the worst ever. This, and I agree with that. So we're not doing it. It's not going to happen.
I think that's good perspective.
We get enough of that from the office across the hall right there, who tells us that a guy that won 2 Super Bowls is trash.
Yep. Well, I would also admit
I don't need it from 7-year-olds in my own house.
Your house, your rules.
We're not doing it.
Your house, your rules.
Not gonna do it.
I think it's a good perspective to have because guess what? The likelihood of any of our kids going professional in any sport, it's extremely small. The likelihood of them playing college sports, insanely small. The likelihood of them playing high school sports, starting at the varsity level in high school is still small.
Probability of their having their starting spot stolen by a transfer in high school, very high.
So all these things are possible, but you know what? Top 10 scorer of all time, trash.
You can't play.
Can't do it.
Can't play.
Guy in the show, trash.
He's a bad player.
Brock Purdy, trash.
Awful.
Jason Kelsey, trash.
Couldn't do it.
Travis Kelsey, trash.
Retired because he couldn't get it done.
Yep. Total trash. All trash.
Trash player.
You know, I'll tell you who's trash. Josh Allen.
How many Super Bowls he got?
Can't beat Mahomes.
Trash player.
Trash. I'll tell you who else is trash. Lamar. Can't win the playoffs. So definitely trash. Has to be. Tell you who else is trash. Tua. Can't stay healthy. Trash.
Apparently he's fat now.
Yep. Tell you who else is trash.
Wow.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady total trash. Couldn't run. Stiff. Pocket guy. Trash. It's unbelievable. Everybody's trash.
That's it. All right, I got that off my chest. Just wanted to have that
I liked it.
conversation.
Well
on the
done.
show. I appreciate it.
Well said.
Just
Die on that hill.
having that one for the masses there. Just getting that one out there. Ray Sibley tweets in, Magic, MJ, Scotty, Bird, Kareem. Magic running the point would be pretty sick. 6'9".
Just a little before my time. My
Dude,
parents.
he was nasty.
He would be on my parents.
No, you didn't
Top
want him.
five,
You didn't want
no
him.
problem.
Shooting many threes or really shots at all. But distributing,
He might be.
He was different.
He
now.
might be my owner of my team. Guy's a
GM.
Yeah, guy's a multi-billionaire. Like started by owning Starbucks and movie theaters. How sick. Now he owns the Dodgers, owns the Commanders. Gosh.
A couple more before we go to break, and then Ron Slay will join us, and we'll preview the SEC basketball tournament. Connor Brooks tweets in, as an LSU fan in Bama, I'm loving the Shaq love, a.k.a. Love Shaq University, Gil Tigers. And Beham Bama tweets in, at PHSQD10, at Mac and Cube. You talk about parents condoning their kids' bad behavior. What about a college coach that condones 2 elbows to the back of the head because it's just retaliation, ? We're back after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. we will move from all-time greats. I should maybe ask Ron Slay his thoughts on this. Slay, welcome into the show. We just had a segment generated at all of my 7-year-old's friends who he came home and asked me if Shaq was terrible because they told him he was trash at school, to which I almost wrecked the car. But yeah, we had to go dig up some numbers and do some educating this morning.
Hey, man, that's the world we live in, man. I had to talk to my son about that. Like, just because your friends say this, man, you need to go home and do your own history, do your own investigation so you can come back with some facts, man. Don't believe what everybody tells you. Too much access out here in this world. Shaq, trash?
I've gotten Babe Ruth is trash and Shaq is trash, to which I was able to show him Shaq literally breaking the hinges of goal support systems. And then I just asked him, go ask your friend at school tomorrow, have you seen the tape on Babe Ruth? And how's he able to say that? So he couldn't give that to me. We have seen the tape on some of these SEC basketball teams. The tournament's going to start today. Greg and I talked about it first segment of the show. I'm getting a little bit nervous as to how many people are as confident as they are that Florida is just going to win this thing. I know they should be one of the favorites, but should we be that confident that Florida just takes this thing to the house?
Listen, man, I'm on board with saying this one team in this country that is able to click a switch, and that's Auburn to me. So if Auburn is walking into this tournament after losing the way they did and saying, you know what, guys, let's go on and get this in order, they are capable of clicking a switch. Outside of them, the way Florida has been playing, I think, you know, we're prisoners of the moment, and they've been one of the hottest teams in the country probably for the last month. The way they've been playing when they're healthy, then you add back in hand-logged and to give them another 7-footer down low. So Todd Golden's playing with a chip on his shoulder. His guys seem to be transferring that energy that he has to the court. And it's not cocky. It's more of a like, man, this is who we are. Y'all can't stop us. So, I mean, it ain't far-fetched to say Florida's going to go out there and win it. Me personally, though, man, if I had to put money on it, I would pick Florida. But if I had to pick with my spirit and my heart, it would be Auburn to me.
It's pretty wild to watch how the teams have kind of reached this point. Auburn didn't play as well last week, but still had a chance. When you look at how they should respond from the disappointment of last week's performances, how do you think they'll fare?
I think they'll be fine mentally. I think it's a mental check more than anything else. I think they'll be fine physically, but mentally, where are you going into a tournament knowing that one play can kind of oust you, as we saw last year against Yale, as we saw this year against Youngblood, whether it be Chad Baker-Mazara, whether it be Dylan Caldwell, whoever it is on the team that could do something. Your roster is what it is because it's been pieces put together that all go together. Like, everybody plays off of each other, if that makes sense. You cannot miss a piece. You know, like, you need everybody fully equipped walking into this. Denver Jones, Miles Kelly, Todd Pettiford, all these guys got to be as a whole unit moving. That's what makes them who they are. When you take one of those pieces out in a tournament aspect, they could be definitely in trouble. Now, you also got to understand, Bruce Pearl is the best motivator maybe in college, at least top 3, in motivating guys and getting them ready to play. So this little chip on their shoulder that they'll have, I think Auburn will be just fine, man. Mindset. The mental part is the part that I think that they got to be able to get over.
Ron Slay of the SEC Network, VFL, former Tennessee basketball player, now of 3-hour lunch on our sister station in Nashville, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. We talked about games coming up today. When you look at these matchups today, is there a team that sticks out, maybe more than one, that you look at and say, you know what, I could see them getting hot. I could see them putting a few things together, the matchups that potentially lie ahead. I like this team to make a run. Who would that team or teams be that are going to be in action today?
2 teams automatically come to mind, Vanderbilt and Arkansas for me. When you look at the way Vanderbilt can play at home, and I'm going to consider this, even though it's a neutral site, this should be a home game for them. They get to sleep at their own beds. They play different when they're close to Memorial. And then his style of play, Coach Byington, what he brings, that is tournament style, where you can get hot because of the way they shoot, the way they press, the turnovers, that they create and get those to points. I know they're a little undersized, but when you play as many guys as they do, that can bode well for you in a tournament style. Now, selfishly, I want Texas to win, and maybe I shouldn't say that, because I want the world to be able to see Trey Johnson on the national stage. I think, man, it's only right that they see a prolific scorer like this up close and personal with the lights the brightest. So I want Texas to be able to pull this out. When you look at Arkansas, though, the way they ended the season with Trevin Brazile, Jonas Adu having double-doubles, and Big Z being impactful on both ends of the floor, Arkansas is a dangerous team. Dangerous team. DJ Wagner looks like he's been in the gym in overdrive, getting his three ball together. You cannot continue to go under that screen. John L. Davis has been able to be sliding to the 2 spot, his more natural position, and Carter Knox been able to come in and be able to get some buckets and impact the game. And Billy Richmond is the wild card. So him backing up the point guard spot, the IQ he's been able to play with is not freshman-like, and the energy that he brings is totally different. And when we talk about motivating, Cal's one of them. Cal just came out and said they forgot to put the nails in the casket. That's the only reason they're still alive. So I know they don't want to go back in that position, so they got an opportunity to get a better seeding, and Arkansas is a dangerous team to me walking into this tournament.
I think Arkansas has been a team that's crazy dangerous and one that could make a run. Looking at their path, knowing there's a few really good teams that they might have to face between now and getting to the finals, do you think it's realistic that they could potentially get hot?
Yeah, I think so. And the reason I think so is because of what they bring, the dynamic of having 3 7-footers. And you can play 2 of them together, and they're both able to space the floor. When you think about Adu, when you think about Brazile, and you think about, Big Z. When those guys are on the floor, the closeout and the rotation is totally different. You're used to rotating a certain way when you're playing defense. When you got to go from short corner to 3-point line, that's 2 different closeouts. And depending on who it is, as athletic as they are, they cover so much space. And that long, rangy, athletic guys they got on the wing, man, yes, they can get hot. Can they shoot well enough? It's almost kind of like a Tennessee thing. They hold that same thing with Tennessee will go cold for spurts, and how do you generate some offense? Can you get turnovers in the points? Can you get to the free throw line when things aren't going? So I think that's the only thing that will make me scratch my head or question them a little bit. But other than that, man, Arkansas definitely can get hot.
I just want to get your thoughts on Alabama before we run. The path, the potential teams in their way, and then just the momentum that they enter this tournament with after that win against Auburn.
Man, listen up. I came out 2 weeks ago and said, man, nobody in the country wants to play Alabama. And people were laughing at me in my mentions and pointing at me and making all kind of little memes. And lo and behold, what did they do when they win the jungle? They beat Auburn. So, man, this is a team that's been tested. They made it to the Final Four. They brought their core group back. Grant Nelson, when he plays the way he's doing, the way he played in that game, finishing over guys, like this is a different Alabama team when he's as effective as he is. They worked Sherrell on. They worked him into the game a little bit, where Sherrell, that's Sherrell, right? The big man.
Yes.
How he just, I know Mac, you ought to know this. He's been incorporated into being able to shoot the way he is, so you add a different dynamic that way. Phylon has came out of his slump. Chris Youngblood got his feet on the ground. And Mark Sears, even though he didn't score a lot in that game, when you need a bucket, he went to Mark Sears, and Mark Sears delivered. This is a dangerous team, man. They've been in this spot before. They know what to do. They know how to get on the run. And Nate Oates has been preaching to play defense. And they seem to be getting it a little bit. And I'm not saying they're gonna be out there like UNLV, the running rebels and stuff, and stopping people. But dog, if they play a little bit of defense like they've been doing, they're gonna be in every single ball game. And I don't want to see them at the end of a game.
All right. So is your pick Florida? Does it let you run?
No, my pick is Auburn.
There we go. Okay.
Yep.
Ron Slay, we appreciate the time. Tell everybody up there on 3 Hour Lunch we said hello, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
All right, no doubt, fellas. And all kids, go do your homework, man, and understand exactly who these historians and these legends are.
There you go. The historians, unfortunately, are the ones that are sitting in class with them, and that's who they're listening to. That's the unfortunate part. So appreciate it, Slay. We'll catch up soon. That's Ron Slay of the SEC Network, 3 Hour Lunch up in Nashville on 104.5 The Zone. He joins us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. So we'll talk a little bit more basketball when we come back. The SEC tournament begins today. We will have more automatic bids to hand out today as well. Who's going to get those? We'll let you know here in a few moments. First, I want to tell you about Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling on edge, if you are lacking sleep, if you don't have energy, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you. It could be the effects of low testosterone. This is what we're going to do for you right now. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Schedule a free consultation. You will get a free PSA test and a free testosterone test. And if you decide to sign up for any service they have, you save 10% by mentioning our show when you walk in the front door. Also, minimal upfront costs from the programs that they offer. They have weight loss options. They have peptides to help you with different ailments. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Sign up for that consultation. See what they can do for you. Get better sleep. Have more energy. Lose weight. All from Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. More college basketball right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 8:39 Wednesday, March the 12th. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. College basketball coming up today. The conference champions that will be announced automatic bids are going to go. Southland Conference, you got McNeese State at 26-6 taking on Lamar at 20-12. 4 o'clock on ESPN2. Patriot League going to put a team in the tournament. 21-12 American versus 15-18 Navy. Who do you root for there? Somebody's going to have to help me.
Navy.
You sure?
So you're going to be un-American. Wow.
You can't not.
So you're going against American.
Yes.
Bold. But, okay. American University versus the Navy.
Just the Navy.
Yeah. American named their university just to garner sympathy. I know Navy's American.
They knew they were coming into Patriot League.
Oh, okay.
And said this will probably give us some advantages. We could be getting another sub-500 team in the NCAA tournament, though, if we can get a Navy win.
Another
That's
one.
6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network.
Another one.
And the Big Sky will send a team to the Big Dance on ESPN2 tonight as 25-8 Northern Colorado take on 24-9 Montana. Your tip? 10:30 Central. Don't believe I'll see the tape on that one.
Why?
I don't think I'll be able to stay awake for that even if I needed to. Had to, wanted to, could, can't.
Why not?
Not going to be able to do it. Just not going to make it. I won't make it. Sorry. It's not going to happen. The SEC tournament does get going at noon. South Carolina, Arkansas will be your first game out of the gate from Nashville and Bridgestone Arena. That game on the SEC network. Basketball begins 30 minutes after we go off the air with the Atlantic 10 Championship. First round, Richmond at 10-21 taking on Davidson at 16-15. On?
CBS Plus.
No.
Peacock.
Tubi.
USA Network.
Heck yeah.
That
Another.
exists after Raw left?
You lose Raw, you get the A10 first round.
So you got USA, Patriot League, and Navy versus American tonight?
Well, unfortunately, the Patriot League is not to be played on USA
No,
Network.
I know, but all those things have been referenced in this one
like
segment.
Fox News would be a better fit, but
Wow.
what? Tell me I'm wrong.
I have no problem.
Patriot League on News Nation.
We play for America. So here are your automatic bids so far. The OVC is sending SIU Edwardsville. They are the
Eagles.
Cougars.
Hmm.
The Big South sending High Point. That's their first ever NCAA tournament appearance, Greg. What do you know? What do you got on High Point? Anything?
No.
That's what you do to
Nothing?
the ball.
HPU.
They are the
High Flyers.
Panthers.
Hmm.
I feel like Panthers is a nickname that's kind of been lost. Used to be like one of every 3 or 4. Now rare.
Really?
I kind of feel that way.
mean,
Or maybe just all the
Maybe the
teams that are Panthers aren't good.
Yeah, exactly. I was saying the teams that were Panthers.
We had Lenny Acuff yesterday. A-Sun sending Lipscomb. They are the
Wait, Lipscomb?
Terriers?
No. That's Wofford. We talked about them earlier.
Yeah, we knew Wofford. Bison?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Missouri Valley sending Drake. You should know this one.
The not like us's.
The Miners.
It's not even the right guy.
Oh my.
It's not even the right
MIAR.
one.
Like
That is
Aggies.
terrible.
It was. They're the Bulldogs. Sunbelt sending Troy. SoCon sending Wofford, who John just
That could
correctly
be an
named.
SS Troy.
I figured you'd get it. The CAA is sending UNC Wilmington. They are the
Ooh.
Green Berets.
Pelicans.
last night
Pelicans.
Seahawks.
Same
Which
thing.
I guess a Pelican could be a Seahawk
same thing.
in its own way.
It just depends on the body of water. It's the same thing.
What?
One doesn't have a goal.
When does a pelican become a Seahawk? Or when does a Seahawk become a pelican?
I guess when it moves out of Louisiana.
And
David
don't
Jazz
give me
at one
this
point.
whole they're two different animals things. No, they're beach birds. They're the same.
Excuse me?
Yeah, they're beach birds.
Pelican, Seahawk, and Seagull all the same.
Yes.
Okay.
And finally, the Northeast Conference is sending the St. Francis
PA.
The Sissies.
They are PA.
We just talked about this earlier.
We did mention their mascot, though. We talked about the fact they're 16 and 17.
Let's say the
8
under
and 8 in
500s.
conference play going to the tournament. They are the Red Flash,
Ah,
not the Flash.
Okay.
The Red Flash.
not just any Flash.
Correct. So that's who we have going today. That's who is going to the tournament. A couple more going to get their bids, and a couple more conference tournaments going to start. We'll update you on those next on Mac and Cube in the morning. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 800-239-9569. You want to get in? You can text into the show 205-834-9450. The topic that I want to get into next hour with one Josh Pate. The spam calls are out of control. Literally, it just doesn't stop.
It never stops.
They just do not stop.
It's brutal.
I think I blocked 8 different numbers yesterday.
It's brutal. It's like a second they block one.
They just keep giving different area codes to call from.
Yep. It's like your credit card bills. They keep coming at you. Ain't got time for it.
Okay. Who do you think is the most hated team in college football right now? You don't have to answer yet, because first I want you to tell our friends about Bromberg's.
Bromberg's is great. I can promise you won't hate the experience you have when you walk in the door. I've always had a terrific experience when I go to Bromberg's. Always appreciate the service and the incredible ways that they're able to find value for me and allow me and help me purchase things that are going to stay in my family for multiple generations. Hopefully, it's really special when you walk in, you buy something that is really, really important to know that things are going to be taken care of. because the people at Bromberg's will go the extra mile to get you what you want. They have that natural diamond. They have beautiful, timeless pieces of jewelry. They have watches. They have all kinds of different things that can help make your loved ones smile. So go and see them today in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit, or you can always shop online at brombergs.com.
When you think about the most hated team in college football, is that an easy answer? Is it one that stays fairly consistent? Is it one that's changed, maybe more, was consistent for a few years, now a different team? What's the first team that comes to mind for you?
I think it's probably the team that is at the top of the sport is going to be the team that's most hated. So as of this moment, probably
just whoever wins a national title?
Probably Ohio State right now.
But would that, just in general, was that the first team that came to mind?
No, I think over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, Alabama's been the most hated.
Okay.
By a mile. Why? Because they're good.
Okay. Georgia take that title for a couple of years there?
I don't know. Was Georgia hated during that run? Or they celebrated in 2021 because they beat the team that was most hated, Alabama?
Finally took him down.
Okay. And then you look at 2022. Were they hated that year? I don't know. I mean, not really. I think they might have been more hated in 23 and more hated in 24 than they were in the 2 years that they won their championships.
Okay. Is it just winning, though? Does it have to be a program with a rich tradition in winning, history in winning? Does your coach have to be a little edgy, so to speak?
No, I think
does he have to throw darts at people in press conferences? Like, what is Ole Miss a possibility there because of what Lane does on social? Or is that more welcomed with open arms because it's different than the way a lot of coaches handle their programs? Does it have to be a team that recruits a certain way? Like, what qualifies for teams to usually fit into this category other than winning a national championship?
I mean, I think winning a national championship is super helpful. I think having a superiority complex is what people hate. And guess what?
Who would you say that you think it has been this team more traditionally over time?
Notre Dame.
All of time. Yeah, because that's who falls in the category, I feel like, most that you just mentioned.
Correct.
We
The
don't
superiority complex.
We don't need a conference.
Yes, we can do things our way.
In BC.
I think them, superiority
we will
complex.
not add seats to
Like
our
you have one or
stadium.
the other. You have a superiority complex or you have an inferiority complex. And it applies to several schools kind of throughout the country. Like if you have a superiority complex, people are going to dislike you. It is just the realities of the situation. So if you're Michigan, if you're Ohio State, if you're Alabama, if you're Texas, if you're Notre Dame, and you have a superiority complex, people are going to hate you. It's pretty simple. And if you have an inferiority complex, people are going to be annoyed by you. They're not going to hate you. They're just going to be annoyed by you. Because inferiority complexes are annoying. I mean, it's pretty, I think like it's pretty self-explanatory. Superiority complex equals hatred. And you can tell the programs that have it. SC, Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, the programs that think they're better than you. And guess what? More often than not, they are. It makes them very easy to dislike.
It is interesting though how certain teams have kind of filled that void, or maybe it wasn't a void, but have taken that place on that mantle for small periods of time. Like UCF was there for a minute.
Yes.
I feel like if you weren't a UCF fan, you hated the way that they were operating for a short period of time. Like you didn't win a national title. Stop. You can't put it on your stadium. Don't just stop acting that way. And then there are teams that legitimately have deserved to be there and held it for a time, like Miami. You know, Lamar Thomas catching a hitch on 3rd and 6 and taking his helmet off and signaling first down.
Yes.
People had a little bit of an issue with that.
Correct.
Oklahoma, Brian Bosworth. Speaking of the superiority complex, I feel like that's probably one that falls in that category.
Oklahoma?
Yeah.
No, I think I'd take the other side of that one.
Oklahoma State?
No, I think I'd take the inferiority complex with Oklahoma.
Oh.
It's not negative, but they're always worried about Texas. Texas. What's Texas doing? When you're worried about what the other school that you rival yourself against,
Yeah, I guess
you worry about like what they're doing.
Yeah, the inferiority complex also comes in with when people say anything about your team and it makes you mad.
Yes.
Probably a problem.
Yes. Guess what?
Your team's great. Why are they not really great? Sorry, yeah. Just trying to help.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having either side, by the way. Now, I think that the gap between inferiority and superiority is really not that big. It's a matter of perspective. When you are more worried about what's going on in other places than you are about yourself, that's a problem.
Fair.
That's a dead sign of inferiority.
Big Corgi boss tweeting in. Last season, most hated team was SMU or Indiana, of course. The most hated team each year, in my opinion, is the team with the weakest schedules, but they make good run, then get smacked. Am I wrong that everyone loved to watch the FSU crybabies get taken down by Georgia in 23? AC's dad tweets in, most hated Alabama. Couldn't go 5 minutes without someone cracking jokes about Bama not being in the playoff from the second they didn't make it to the end of the championship game. And I love it.
Alabama lives rent-free in a lot of people's heads.
Also, Steven in Texas tweets in, get this, free or use RoboKiller, which is paid. He has a screenshot from RoboKiller.
What's RoboKiller?
The
robocalls?
The movie was called RoboCop, but yes. It says, hello, welcome to AT&T Active Armor Advanced Mobile Security. If I have AT&T, where do I find this? And how do I sign up for it? And how fast can I get it on my phone? Because I'm getting 17 calls a day.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, Joshua, who used to have my number like 7 years ago, he's still signing up for loans somewhere.
Heck yeah.
They call every day.
See the guy coming
Joshua,
up next?
we have $250 for your night out on the town. Sign up now.
Get him, Joshua.
Give us your life. Josh Pate joins us next. Hour number 3, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Josh Pate brought upon the idea of most hated team in college football. He actually went a direction that none of us went in our last segment when we discussed who that team may be, why teams may qualify to hold that title. We'll get to Josh in just a moment. First, don't forget about our friends at Train. Train, is sponsor here on the show. Obviously, a lot of flu going around, not to mention pollen season right around the corner. Saw carpenter bees at the house yesterday.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Get your tennis rackets ready.
Cancel the season.
Get your tennis rackets ready.
I'm not sure that's the way I'd go about it.
Get the pickleball paddles going.
Does that
make
work?
your home healthier with Train's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It can send you to Dr. Dugas for elbow surgery.
Yeah, there you go.
Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus, 100 times more effective than standard air filters, 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at train.com. It's hard to stop a train. Hard to stop Josh Pate, who joins us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. You chose Texas as the most hated team in college football. Why?
Because I go around the country every week like you claim to do, at least around the South. How do you argue this? People either outright despise them or they are net negative on Texas. Who in the world do you talk to in the South or elsewhere about Texas and they say, Texas, huh? Whatever.
Okay,
like what people used to think about Notre Dame.
Calm down for a moment.
No,
you
I
sound
can't.
like
I
me
just
with
got
my
cold
son's
brew.
friends saying Shaq's trash. Okay, no one's going against you here. We're just saying that there were other options. Why did you go with Texas?
Well, first off, we've talked about you comparing me to your son attitudinally, on air or privately. We've talked about that. Secondly, I'm not doing the whole Texas and it's not even close thing. But I am basically projecting a lot of the feedback I got from Twitter onto you. You are Twitter now. Twitter and you are one and the same.
We are.
Because I got some people from like North Dakota or Olympia, Washington saying, well, I don't really care about Texas. Well, humbly, respectfully, but forcefully, I'm not sure those people are speaking for America. So here's what happened. Texas didn't win a national title since 2005, but that didn't stop them from acting like they've won several since 2005. So it doesn't really even matter how full the trophy case is. And of course, I'm not speaking for myself because I love everyone. But as far as everyone else's attitude, they look at Texas, and I almost think they'd have less problem with them if they had the trophy case to back up the attitude. There was obviously an arrogance amongst Alabama fans during Nick Saban. That's because they were winning a title every 24 to 36 months on average. Texas hasn't. But yet you wouldn't know there was a difference between the two if you watched the way they carried themselves. And also, it didn't hurt that I spent last week out in Texas and got a strong feel for the disdain amongst the locals who weren't wearing burnt orange. So that's why I put Texas number one.
I don't have any problem with that. I think they are probably one in line with the handful of teams that have a superiority complex. I think being hated goes hand in hand with the superiority complex. Now, if you have an inferiority complex, very much the opposite, where you might get mad at everybody, but really it's because you're overly defensive because your team standing isn't where you'd like it to be. But the superiority complex is all about, well, we're better than you, just deal with it. Texas obviously has that, but a handful of others also have that. So who, I would just open-ended, who else was in the mix for you in this most hated, and we will figure out whether or not they all check the box of superiority.
So I believe Texas was one. I think Bama was either 2 or 3 still.
Okay, superiority. There you go.
Yeah. I did not have Oregon in there. Some people said Oregon should be in there. I just think it's still too new of a concept. I didn't have them in there.
Yeah, they're new money.
You can tell I prepared for this, by the way. So it was very controversial that I didn't have Georgia in the top 5. So I ran a very scientific poll. So in other words, I went on Twitter and I got like 15,000 votes on that thing. And it was 51% to 49%. Do you think Georgia is a top 5 most hated team? Which is kind of mind boggling. And then it led to sort of a version of what you're talking about, Greg, with a lot of trying to project a Georgia fan's desire to be hated into the equation. And they started arguing with the poll, which is wonderful. You normally have to wait till much later at night in suspect portions of Birmingham to see that kind of thing take place. But I watched grown men argue with the poll. Like, no, trust me, bro, we're hated. Well, 51% of the country says you're not. And even if it's on the fence, think about that concept. You've won 2 national titles over the past several years. You may be the best program in college football, yet we're arguing whether you border on top 5 most hated status. That's what I spent a majority of the show trying to figure out. Why is Georgia not more hated? And I still have not quite put my finger on it.
Josh Pate joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking some college football, most hated team in college football. If it were to be Texas and you were to be right, how far back would that go? Is it just this year, the past year? When did they take this title?
No, I think it's very deep rooted. I think a lot of it goes back to Southwest Conference days, and I think a lot of that's been taught. It's no different than spirituality. That has to be taught in the household. So the child has to be taught to hate Texas from the dad and the uncle and the grandfather that remember the old Southwest Conference days, maybe even the little Southwest Conference patch hanging above the crib, and how badly they mistreated their brethren in the Southwest Conference, and all that's true. And then you move on to the Big 12 and how unevenly they tip the scales there. And then you move on to the SEC and they walk in immediately acting like they run the place. I think that has to be taught. I forgot about this. So the other one that really popped, despite not doing anything over the past 20 years, was Miami. Miami hasn't won anything, yet the echoes of them being what they were in the 90s and 2000s are still fresh enough where you're only like one generation removed from that. So you either watch the documentaries or get taught about it if you're in college. And then Mario going down there has really mobilized a lot of the hatred for the non-Miami crowd because they're recruiting really well, which means they pound their chest, which kicks over the ant bed of nobody cares because they don't hand out national championships for recruiting, which is true. And then they win 10 games last year, but it felt really hollow because the expectation was, well, they're at least going to win 10. They're at least going to compete for the ACC and make the playoff. And they didn't do that. So you got a guy who's elevated 3 straight years, yet he's viewed as a failure last year. So I had Miami as more hated than Georgia, and one has done a ton recently, and the other's done nothing.
Because the first team that I thought of when I heard you pose this question was Michigan. And now there is a lot of the historical things that we've talked about with a certain complex and feeling a certain way about oneself, and then obviously winning a lot helps. But then with all the Connor Stallions situation, I felt like that should have propelled them to the top. You had the dust up with Ohio State after the game. It felt like there were a lot of things in Michigan's court, Harbaugh, how all that was handled, that should have had them at the top of this list right now.
To me, the Stallions thing is the only thing that would have propelled them up there. Because I thought if you think about that entire last 5-year run for them, and you remove Ohio State fans because they'll always hate them. So aside from just the games, the rivalry hatred, if you take an LSU fan or an Alabama fan or an FSU fan and their view of Michigan, but take away the Connor Stallion stuff, I think it'd be one of the more admirable stories, like one of the more likable stories, because you're into the NIL transfer portal era by the time that team wins a title. But the way the team won the title is a lot of guys being recruited together, sticking together, losing together early, losing again, kind of getting closer and closer, and then they finally cap it off, beat Bama in the Rose Bowl, go on to win the national title. Now, that's a perfect college football story. If you didn't have the Connor Stallion stuff woven in, I think it's actually a likable story. So if you're going to make the case for Michigan, outside of the Ohio State fans, I think the argument has to center around Connor Stallions and then how you feel about the NCAA investigation, which, by the way, is still ongoing. That thing's weaving its way through the NCAA infractions process as we speak, and I have no idea how that's going to turn out. It could be anything from a slap on the wrist to mandating that they turn the M upside down as their official logo. Anything and everything is on the table right now.
I don't feel like there's been much conversation surrounding Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC. Those are the few that would be at or near the top of my list, alongside that of Texas, Michigan, and Alabama. But here we are, down 10 minutes into our conversation, and very little has been made of those 3 programs. Where do they currently stand?
Had Ohio State there, had them and Michigan kind of next to each other, I think 4 and 5 maybe, for a lot of the same reasons as we talked about with the others. Big brand, carry themselves accordingly. Just one. I think some people may have lack of respect for the third chance they just got, having the most talented roster in college football. I had a couple of coaches that faced them last year. Greg, you may have dealt with the same thing, that said, yeah, this may be the most talented team pound for pound I've ever faced. Okay, well, the public looks at that and they say, really? You lost 2 games in the regular season. The only thing that bailed you out is the new format. And then there's the misconception that they just went out and bought their entire team via the portal. Whether that's real or not, people think it. So, yeah, there's a hate factor there. The Notre Dame one's the most interesting one to me because I didn't have them top 5, because I asked myself, where did an indifferent sort of agnostic fan fall during the national championship game? Who did they pull for? And I felt like most of America probably pulled for the Notre Dame side as opposed to the Ohio State side, which makes me wonder how I can describe you as one of the 5 most hated if you're the underdog, you're the guy someone chooses to pull for. Southern Cal, I think, would immediately rocket back to the top the second they become a playoff contender. It would take 1 year. And if Lincoln Riley ever turns that around, they'd be up there. Right now, they've just been such a non-factor recently that I don't know. The thing that exists with Miami and the willingness to readily remember the vintage U days, I don't know if this generation remembers the Pete Carroll days the same way, even though they're more recent. I don't know how that works, but I don't get that sense.
We were talking though earlier about Shaquille O'Neal and how he would be made for today's day of like sports consumers. Like he was a YouTube player then. I wonder if Miami then would almost be less hated, more celebrated now. Like they were kind of a YouTube team late 80s, early 90s, and then a little bit further than that. Like the celebrations, the taunting, the antics. I almost wonder how much more of that would have been accepted and celebrated than hated with maybe people a little bit younger than us today.
Yeah, I think it becomes a polarized conversation in like 2 nanoseconds. And then you get the pro and the anti. And then, I mean, can you imagine the first take conversations about Miami football? I guess the good news is they'd be talking about college football. The bad news is they'd be talking about college football. So it's one and the same there. I was actually talking about this in a different vein last night, though. So I agree with what you said about Miami, but we'll see if you guys go where I went. Can you think of a head coach pre-YouTube, pre-digital media, like 90s and before? Can you think of a head coach that you think was tailor-made to exist in this generation that just so happened to come along too early?
No. Do you have one?
Yeah. I imagine Steve Spurrier existing today.
Yeah. No, yes, for
in
sure.
In the prime of his career now, like vintage Florida Spurrier existing today. And I can't imagine a guy that's more tailor-made for today's media environment. He already was. He was trying to do it. He'd just count on SEC Media Days to be that platform for him. But he could have that anytime he wants these days.
No, he was Lane Kiffin's Twitter verbally, like, and in real life. I mean,
you know what? That's it. I'm glad you said that because I think they're much different people. The way Kiffin is on Twitter is not the way he is in real life. No. You guys both know because you deal with him. Spurrier really is that. Like if Spurrier sees a camera, he wants to walk towards it. Lane Kiffin wants to go hide behind the corner. He actually doesn't seek that stuff out. There's just an alternate persona that he plays online. I'm not saying he's fake. I'm saying I think there's like another person that exists in his head that really embraces the online version, and the real life Lane says, I'll pass on that.
You should hear some of the stories about. You should hear some of the stories that Greg and I have heard from Spurrier at SEC functions during his career. He was even more than what you think he was. It was amazing.
It's great. And then you get a little earlier before that, and then you start getting the old heads talking about the Skyriders days and the stories they have about flying around before the media days concept existed and meeting with each of those coaches off the record in their homes, on the back patio. That stuff could fill an entire show plus of just stories about the way interactions between media types and college football head coaches used to work.
I don't think there's any doubt. One more before we let you go. We were talking SEC title contenders right now. And I know you really wanted to talk about the basketball tournament, which begins today, but we're actually not referencing that. We're referencing this fall and how many teams can actually win the SEC championship this year. Our numbers were a little bit different it does seem like it's Texas, and then and Texas has concerns, but a lot more concerns with the other teams that you would mention. How deep would your list go of teams that you realistically think can win an SEC championship this season?
Off the top of my head, I think Texas can, Georgia can, Bama can, Tennessee, LSU. I'm looking at the odds right now. LSU has longer odds than Tennessee. I would absolutely choose LSU above Tennessee. Ole Miss can. A&M a total wild card. South Carolina's, Florida, if I gave them Tennessee's schedule, would be a slam dunk yes. Missouri's got a very workable schedule again. Total wild card thing at the quarterback position. Love that kid at running back they got from ULM. I don't know if I would say winning the SEC is on the plate for them. So maybe like 2, 4, 6, maybe 7 is the number I arrive at.
Wow. That's deep. It's a lot. It's a lot of teams. A lot of teams, Joshua.
There's just not a ton of certainty at quarterback. If you had slam dunks at quarterback, I mean, is Garrett Nussmeier the slam dunk we're looking at in the conference this year?
Complete slam dunk. Never a doubt.
All right. So if that's the case, I mean, where does he stack up historically in the pantheon of great SEC quarterbacks? What is that, a B- to a B-level player?
That seems a little harsh. Goodness
B+?
gracious.
We're going B+?
Josh isn't wrong if you're comparing him to, 2 of the last 3
What would
LSU
Joe
quarterbacks.
Burrow, what would Joe Burrow have been
An
going
A+.
into his last year?
A B-.
No. That's point taken. But that's also an unfair way to play the game because we know the way that story ended. So what I'm asking
but is LSU revamping their offense?
Doesn't matter.
It does matter because they did for Burrow. Completely changed who they were. If Nuss is getting a totally new system, then I think we can compare it.
Well, I think if you look at what Joe Burrow did, and Joe Burrow did amazing things in his time at LSU, I would 100% take Garrett Nussmeier through 4 years of college prior to Joe Burrow's 4 years, when comparing it to Joe Burrow's first 4 years of college. I'm not sure it's close.
I'll grant you that. Yeah, I grant you all that. But I know how Burrow's last year went. So that's the A+ for me. Jaden Daniels, that's an A+ for me. Grading on that scale from what you expect, like how you project Garrett Nussmeier, I think at his very best, I don't view him as being capable of matching that. I'll be happy to be wrong. So I'm going to classify him as somewhere in the B category in terms of max capability relative to those guys. If that's the ceiling at quarterback, unless you think Lagway or Sellers or someone else can achieve more, which is fine, then it's a more wide open field. Because if you have that amount of wiggle room or variability or whatever you want to call it at the quarterback position, that just means a more wide open or sort of a flattened field to me at the very top.
That's fair. That's a good point. Josh, we always appreciate the time. Great stuff. Be careful this week.
Yeah. Hey, go basketball.
Wow. Thank
Love
you, Josh. Did he just slam the microphone down on the podium?
Why is he so down on hoop?
That's the quick exit. Feinbaum does it too. Like, all right, I've had enough, guys. I'm out.
Why is he so down on hoop?
We don't need radio color guys tweeting into our show. Okay? Take it easy, folks. We're good. Greg and I are good with basketball.
I like basketball.
Yeah, don't put that on us. That's not on us. You go to Josh's YouTube channel and take your frustrations out there. We didn't say that.
Yeah.
I don't need that steam here on this show.
You know he hates Clemson. Probably hates Alabama and Auburn too.
Probably
does.
It sounds like he hates every college basketball team. And we didn't even ask him if he's rooting for Navy or American. He'd probably tell you he's rooting against both. Can they both lose?
Because he's a big school homer.
He's rooting for Conference USSR, it sounds like.
Wow. That's not funny to joke about.
But like that's where
these colors don't run.
That's where
we draw the line.
No more.
You don't say Russia, not the Soviets. Haters.
All right. Who are you coming in with as most hated team? Were we right? Were we wrong? Are there others that need to be included in that? We'll continue the college football conversation. I want to talk about SEC quarterbacks as well. How many known commodities are there? Next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Pate said he almost called in after the conference USSR comment. Should have.
It's terrible that Cole would take it there.
I'm just trying to bring a dose of reality to our listeners as to what he was saying in the direction that he was going.
Hey, you got no pushback from me. I'm good with it.
So not after hating Alabama and Auburn, but after so we can't confirm he hates them.
All I said was I didn't get a chance to ask him who he would be rooting for tonight in the Patriot League final between Navy and American. And based on some other things he was saying, it sounded like he might have just gone the path of I hope they both lose.
So it sounded like to me. That's what I heard.
So if he wants to go full Nikolai Volkov and even tag team with the Iron Sheik and come into the arena that way, that's not on us. All I'm saying is don't put that on us.
Don't put it on you.
We've had it put on us before that we have fairly disputed and discussed rankings differences between bowl games and college basketball games. We've gotten the hate for that before. Don't need it again. Don't want it again.
Don't want it.
I got enough going on in my life right now with 7-year-olds telling my son that Shaq wasn't good.
Not just that he wasn't good.
I did a whole sheet of prep right here. There it is. And whole radio segment on it. That's what you get, 6-year-olds.
Trash.
Tell me Shaq is trash.
Yeah.
Prove you wrong.
I don't even remember who the guy was that tweeted us about basketball.
Good.
God's honest truth. I don't remember his name.
If we were ranking confidence levels in SEC starting quarterbacks, or who we think the starting quarterbacks are going to be in the Southeastern Conference this year, you would say it's easily Garrett Nussmeier, right?
Yes.
There's no close second. Is Arch Manning next?
No, there's too much unknown. I like Arch Manning. I think Arch Manning's got a chance to be great. I just don't know that right now.
But it does feel like there's a bit of a logjam next because Lagway, as you've talked about, the bowl game wasn't as clean as people thought. There were some mistakes down the stretch. Sellers gives you the highlight plays.
Yeah.
The consistency is still not there. 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions last year. Taylon Green, a lot of wow.
A lot of wow.
Some of the high percentage stuff doesn't always happen. The things that you feel like ought to be there sometimes are not. Marcel Reed can be all over the place. Nico Iamaleava, I don't really think lived up to the expectations. And it's not that he had a bad year. Maybe here's the question. Could Nico Iamaleava have lived up to the hype last year? Literally, was it even feasible for him to live up to the hype? I'm not sure it was.
Well, I think what's funny is I feel like most Tennessee fans have some strange like revisionist history as it relates to Nico from last year. Like they view him through the lens of, man, he was great. But what I view was that he was very up and down last year, which by the way is to be expected. He's still a young quarterback. He's still a young, inexperienced quarterback. Him having ups and downs last year was not a surprise, nor was it at all disappointing. I wasn't disappointed with him at all. He missed some throws. But his numbers, you would think that he had Hendon Hooker type season last year with the way people are currently talking about him. That wasn't the case.
I just feel like he would have had to have gone full David Klingler to even like get close to reaching some of the expectations people had for him. It just wasn't going to be met at all. To put it in perspective, he completed 64% of his passes, over 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. It's a good year. Is it a wow year? No. Is it an amazing year? No, but it's his first year as a starter also. And they had a great running back that you leaned on a bunch. Yeah. So I just don't know if he really even could have met a lot of the expectations that were out there for him. But I also feel like you have a lot of the Taylon Green, the Nico. Here's an interesting, the DJ Lagway, the Lenore Sellers. Here's an interesting one for you, Greg.
Let's hear it.
Where does Diego Pavia fall in your confidence rankings? We're not talking about the season they're going to put out or stats or will they blow you away or go undefeated, but just confidence in being the quarterback of their team. Where would he rank?
I don't think he'd be great in every system. That's kind of the problem.
But that's not, we're talking about their situation.
For their situation, if I had a scale of 1 to 10 confidence, it'd be like a 7.
He'd probably be right behind. He'd probably be top 3 with Nussmeier being 1.
Yeah,
but
but my only concern about Diego Pavia is the way he plays is reckless.
It's fair.
And that is concerning to me. Doesn't mean he can't survive another season, but he has now played how many consecutive years without injury? And it concerns me. It concerns me that he's going to continue to take big hits.
Are we going to get away from the fadeaway jumpers when under pressure? Can we limit those in game?
Yeah,
I don't know if we can get away from that.
I think there were some really magical moments last year with what he did. The Bama game being the best example. I've never seen a quarterback since Johnny Manziel play as well against Alabama as Diego Pavia did last year. He was that good that day. I'm not saying he's better than Burrow. I'm saying that day he didn't miss. The entire day he did not miss one throw, did not miss one decision. It was absolutely a flawless performance. So I think that's amazing, but are we maybe misremembering the latter half of the season?
Well, there were some rough moments later.
Heck yeah, there were. So it doesn't mean he's not great.
Some of those fadeaway jumpers I'm talking about.
Still a very good player, but not.
But you do have a lot of confidence with his situation and his offense, the experience he has. Doesn't mean that he has the surroundings to win 10 games, but just if you're talking about guys you feel best about operating their offense on their team, he has to be top 3 or 4 as far as confidence points in the league.
Yeah.
Because the ones that feel like they're coming after Nussmeier, you could really start to pick apart. Like Marcel Reed, there's plenty to pick apart. Lagway's got more than I think people want to realize. If it's Jackson Arnold at Auburn, we can't get into that. But plenty that we could pick apart there. Sellers has his issues. Taylor Green is not always clean. Arch Manning, we've seen just a small sample size of. So I think where Josh is going with this is like, look how many teams that we think can win an SEC championship, and there are legitimate unknowns, even with what we know at quarterback.
Yeah.
We might know who the guy is, but there are still some unknowns with that actual guy being a full-time player.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it.
You're right. And I really am fascinated about kind of where some of these quarterbacks' growth may come. I think there's a lot of areas where we could see a ton of improvement. I think this is going to be a great year for quarterback play in the SEC. I'm really optimistic about it. I like what we saw last year. I also think there's going to be some regression in a few places, which will be really interesting. Because I don't know if some of this stuff is sustainable for a few of these guys. There's a few guys I think that are about to take the top off. Nussmeier is honestly one of them. But I could see regression in some places. I really could. Do I think Lenora Sellers is going to regress? It's possible. I don't know for sure. I think it's possible. I don't know. What about Lagway? Is Lagway poised to continue to take off? Is Marcel Reed potentially in line to regress? I don't know. Is Taylor Green in line to regress? I have no idea. I just think we're going to see some real movement in the pecking. I think Diego Pavia could be in line to regress a little bit. We're going to see some real movement amongst quarterbacks this year where you're going to see guys just totally take off. Maybe that'll be Nico Iamaleava. And then you're going to see guys that regress. And I don't know who's going to be who.
Listen,
Nussmeier could regress.
Calzada has played a lot of football. He's at Kentucky now. We don't know what that's going to look like. Blake Shape in year 2 with Jeff Lebby. He's got the talent. If he stays healthy,
yeah,
and he's confident with what he's doing, that could be somebody that takes a big step. So there are. It's like you said. There are a lot of spots that are very intriguing as to it could go this way, it could go that way. We don't really know. We feel like we know some, but we don't know all. They haven't been the full-time starter for a season. They've either been injured or they've had to come in for the guy that was injured, play a little bit, fill in later in the year. And because we have a little bit more on Sellers and Lagway, I think it's easy to push them towards the top. But we don't know what Ty Simpson's going to look like at Alabama if he's a starter. We haven't seen him in that role. We don't know what it's going to look like. We've seen Pavia, like you said. Are they going to be able to add to that offense to when teams can take certain portions of it away that they can find out how to get it going? I don't know. They have the bodies to be able to do that. They might not.
Might not.
They might have to lean still on quarterback run and smoke and mirrors and motion and formations and a little bit of tempo here and there. That might be how they win games.
Might be.
And there's teams that can deal with that. And then all of a sudden, what are you going to do? When it's just guy versus guy, dude versus dude, what do you do?
No idea. But I really am kind of very interested in some of these some of these opportunities that guys have to really break out this year. A lot of it that I've just come to terms with the fact that I think a lot of it has to do with the supporting cast.
No doubt.
Like I look at Nico last year. I don't think his supporting cast at wide receiver was great. I don't know if it's going to be any better this year, but I don't think that
running
group was
back's
great.
not.
I know Carson Beck's situation was a disaster last year. So regardless of whoever the quarterback is, are they going to be improved at quarterback because of the improvements made at wide receiver? I look at the receivers that Florida had last year, and I don't think they're going to be as good as they were a year ago. I think there's questions there as to whether or not that group collectively can improve. I look at how Lenora Sellers had to single-handedly take over games with his legs at times last year because the receivers, outside of Mazio Bennett and Josh Simon, the tight end, outside of those two, there weren't a lot of guys that I trusted implicitly every single time he dropped back to throw it. Arch Manning, I think they got a lot of new faces at wide receiver. I think they're going to be really good, though. I look at some of their pieces that are back off last year's team. Like I think he's going to step into a really nice situation. So there's just tons of intrigue this year. And more so than ever before, I am very much planning on adjusting and altering my assessment in the preseason for what we could see from these guys in the with the supporting cast.
And then you go to teams like A&M, Marcel Reed, wild card, but also you got a Jacob Zeno behind him where you have to feel like that was done for a reason. And he was brought in for a reason, because if it doesn't work, you've got a veteran there that's played a lot of college football and could be ready to go. So, again, don't know if that is kind of the plan, should be the plan, will be the plan. You know, you've mentioned before what's going to probably happen in Oxford this year and what that's going to look like. The arm ability is there. The talent is there. That's another one. Is a supporting cast going to be near as good as it was last year?
Might not be.
I don't think it could be. I don't really think that there's any way that you're looking at that it's at least going to be to that level. So it's going to be a fun watch because, as you stated, I don't know if quarterback play is just going to be great across the league, but there's going to be some ups and downs. And there's going to be some guys that surprise us and guys that don't. And Austin Simmons might be one that goes past everybody's expectations. I don't know. Think about where we were right now.
Another guy with crazy high expectations that I have tons of faith in,
Sure.
tons of excitement and expectations for. But at the same time, I don't know about his supporting cast like I did the past couple of years. Like the guys that Jackson Dart took the field with and the guys that he took the field with last year, little different level.
Well, and some we don't know. You got some transfer guys coming in. I think Logan Diggs will be great at running back.
Yeah.
He can carry the load. So maybe you lean on him just a little bit more. But you got different receivers coming in from different places. Caden Lee is back, and he'll be able to help you. But, you know, Harrison Wallace comes in from Penn State. DeJon Stribling comes in from Oklahoma State. We'll see. We don't really know. Think about where we were 1 year ago today to where we are now with Jackson Arnold. He was the incumbent, right? He was the next guy, the 5-star, taking over. All these Oklahoma quarterbacks that had put up all these numbers, he was going to be the next one to do it. And now we're sitting here saying, yeah, but will he really win the job at Auburn?
I mean, come on.
No, it's a fair question.
Come on.
Greg. No. You can't just say it's his, because if it's what it looked like last year, he's not winning that job.
I'm not going to say it's like a bona fide
That's why
lock.
Ashton Daniels is there.
I'm not going to say it's a bona fide lock. All I'm saying is I think it's hard to envision a scenario where they start someone over him. We saw how influential things can be last year.
There were influences. We'll talk a little bit more about that quarterback situation next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Talk about Auburn quarterback situation as we were talking SEC quarterback situations with confidence levels that we have in certain quarterback rooms heading into the SEC season through spring practice. And obviously we'll learn a little bit more, have a little bit more through spring practice. If you need a little bit more sleep, your CBD store can help. They have products that can help deliver that. Anxiety hurt you throughout the course of the day, or your pet, arthritis for you or your pet. They have products that can help you with that. Skincare, gut health for you or your pet. Maybe the weight loss is something you're struggling with. Your CBD store has the Trim by SunMed on the shelves now to be able to help you with that. That's why they're the largest brick and mortar CBD retailer in the world. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They've got the stamp seal on these products. That's why they meet and achieve a certain set of standards. Check out one of their 3 locations, Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trussville just off 459. Your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, Greg, so obviously we all believe Jackson Arnold should be the guy, probably will be the guy, but there were things last year that have to be coached out of him. Like, he needs a hard reset.
No question.
And I don't think those things just happen. You played the position. You've seen it. You've studied the position more than we have. How difficult a task will it be for him to get past some of those struggles that he had a year ago?
I think it'll be somewhat difficult, but it's really going to be at the first sign of when the bullets are flying and the mistakes are happen. The mistakes are going to happen. That is a foregone conclusion. They will make mistakes. It will happen for sure. But guess what? It's not about making the mistake. It's about whether or not the mistake compounds. And that is what was most concerning about his performances last year. Not only did he allow mistakes to compound, but he did so time and time again. And I think it is of concern that he would press. And when you press, look, it happens, by the way. We all do it. It's happened a million times. It's not different or unique. Every single one of us, when you make a mistake, you try to make up for it the following throw. And it's not smart. In this league, especially, you literally can't do it. You might be able to get away with it in the American, maybe even in the Big 12, but you're not getting away with it in the SEC. So I think him understanding that mistakes will happen, but don't let the mistake define the performance. Let the performance remove itself from the mistake. And it's not how you start. It's more about how you finish the game. So I think that's his biggest key is don't try to press.
Do you think the new offense helps with that? The sort of the reset that was necessary, that was needed? As in, things will be called a different way, look a different way, sound a different way. Just how much does that assist in sort of starting over, I guess?
1,000% that will help. New offense will help, but the problem is this is an offense that has traditionally been very turnover prone. If you look at Hugh Freeze's numbers dating back to his time even at Ole Miss and at Arkansas State prior to, and other times throughout his career, this is an offense that's based on split-second decisions that are very difficult, by the way. Very, very difficult. But if you look at their turnover numbers, traditionally, they have been high-level turnovers. If you look at Auburn last year, we know the turnover numbers, all right? In Hugh Freeze's 50 games at Liberty, 50, they had 81 turnovers.
That's a lot. Feels like a lot.
1.5, more than 1.5, 1.6 turnovers a game. As an SEC head coach, in 64 games at Ole Miss, they turned it over 117 times. And in his first 18 games at Auburn, he had 35 turnovers. So that means in his first 82 games as an SEC head coach, they averaged 1.85 turnovers a game. 152 in 82 games.
Yeah.
It's because split-second decisions have to be made. It's hard. Hey, guess what? It works, and it's hard to defend, but it's also sometimes the quarterback can make a split-second decision that was the wrong decision, and it leads to a turnover. Just for the record, just so we are familiar, SEC head coach, 152 turnovers in his first 82 games. That's 1.85 turnovers a game, right? For comparison's sake, Alabama turned it over 82 times in 87 games. Georgia, 94 times in 86 games. So around 1 or less than 1 turnovers per game.
Right.
So I think that's something to account for. And that's my only concern about Jackson Arnold is that he is going into an offense that is likely based over the course of 202 career games, or I'm sorry, 132 career games. Highly likely that we're going to have turnovers.
Yeah. Interesting stuff there from a turnover perspective on Hugh Freeze offenses and maybe what Jackson Arnold will or will not be in that Auburn offense this year. We'll get to our bad box scores of the day on the other side. First, I want to tell you about if you're looking for a house on the other side of the neighborhood, Gusty Goulas Group can help you. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com right now, or better yet, Google Gusty Goulas Group. You'll see over 835-star Google reviews, brokered by eXp Realty. Most agents going to start marketing after you list with him, not Gusty. He's been marketing long before he meets a potential seller. That's why he's got the buyers lined up as soon as a home hits market. Since 2012, Gusty Goulas Group recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham and Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. Gusty Goulas Group served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers here in the Greater Birmingham area. That's why they can help you get into your new home. Call 205-542-1996 today or go to GustyGoulasGroup.com and start packing. Bad box scores with I'm not going to say potential all-timer. I'm going to say definitive all-timer.
Oh, no.
Coming up next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. If you missed Roddy Nabulsi, Ron Slay, Josh Pate on the show today, go to jocksfm.com, get the podcast, watch it back live on YouTube. Not live. Well, we're live on YouTube. You could go back and watch it on YouTube, though, and catch all those there. Or get the podcast on the Jocks app. Just search WJOX in your app store.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC dealer of the year. They take great care of you. And I know you guys will appreciate the experience that you'll have when you go and shop at Bill Smith Buick GMC. There's a reason why they've won 5 consecutive national championships. That's right. 5 straight national championships. It's almost impossible to even wrap your head around, but they can do it at Bill Smith. They've done it. It's amazing. You'll go and see Jonathan Yeager. You go see Andy Cole. They'll make your experience better by going and getting yourself a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT 4x4 loaded with leather. This thing's $13,000 off the sticker price. Around here, you're paying $65. Up there, you're paying $52. It's amazing the deals that they'll have on the lot. Go and see their used car supercenter. They have something for you regardless of what your budget is. Take the short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did it. You can also shop online. Have delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, let's get to our bad box scores of the day. First off, a couple JUCO baseball scores. Lincoln Trail College took out Chauncey Community College 23-2 yesterday.
Wow. Not great.
CSU Club lost to Northeastern Junior College 24-3 yesterday.
Yeah.
Those aren't the all-timers.
In junior college ladies basketball yesterday. Now, this is a part of the Region 6 quarterfinals in the NJCAA tournament. The Anoka Ramsey Community College.
The Russians.
No, they're the Falcons.
They're not. No. No.
Eagles.
Rams.
Oh, that was right there.
They just snuck past the Central Lakes College Brainerd.
Bulldogs.
No.
Land Sharks.
Nope.
I'm going to say Panthers.
Red Raiders. That's a great guess, though, based on Panthers showing up a little bit earlier in the show. 65-21 yesterday.
Okay. This is tournament time, right?
By quarter, Central Lakes went 5, 6, and 5.
Oh, so he's a good coach.
Those are points by
Points.
quarter.
But
by
score
the
more
way.
in the second half.
By 1 point.
Yeah, there we
correct.
go.
Yeah,
It ain't hard.
Maybe.
Second half adjustments.
Does it count if all
Took
of the
effect.
starters and then the next 5 from the bench were out of the game? Because 6 scored in double figures for Anoka Ramsey.
Okay.
By the way, imagine being the announcer. Anoka Ramsey Community College Rams and the Central Lakes College Brainerd Red Raiders. That's just a lot, I feel like.
I feel like you weren't saying one of those teams a lot, though.
Well, as far as misses you were, because Central Lakes shot the ball 59 times in the game.
Okay.
That's they're
good
putting them
output.
up.
Not bad.
They made 8.
8?
It's a cold night.
They
That's
shot
it?
59.
Uh-huh.
They made 8.
That's not cold.
Not great.
That's Andre 3000 ice cold.
And on 51 said misses, they pulled down 9 offensive rebounds.
Okay.
51 bricks,
Uh-huh.
9 offensive rebounds.
Not great.
Now, you thought that 13% from the floor was bad.
Very much so.
But what you didn't realize is that the Red Raiders shot threes 43 times.
Oh, okay.
That's what, okay.
They're just going for the long ball.
Long ball.
Yeah. That's
Going
today's
for it
game.
might be the key phrase there, because making it wasn't one of them other than 2 times.
They were shooting from half court.
Uh-huh.
What's wrong with that?
2 of 43 from 3? I'll say 92% of that was wrong.
You know what? They shot better than
Because
Pistol Pete from
8
3.
is the percent that they made.
Okay.
They shot 7 free throws,
How many did they make?
Okay.
just 3.
Oh.
Just 3, eh?
So they shot 13%, 8%, and 42% from the floor, 3, and free throw line.
That's a recipe for bad box score.
Pretty bad.
That's
They were out rebounded 50-35, and they only turned it over 23 times.
Only 23 is not bad.
Again, he's a good coach.
They had twice as many missed
About to
threes
say,
as they did
very
turnovers.
Good coach.
yeah.
Outstanding
established,
coach.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. 8 of 59, I think, is as bad as we've seen.
That's pretty bad.
1,000%.
Rather
1 of
egregious.
31,
No,
not
no.
bad. Not great.
13% from the floor is what they shot. 13. 13%.
Tough one to wrap your head around.
Oh. Bad
Hiya.
ball.
Hiya. That's, yeah. 26-2, your points off turnovers. They were also outscored 36-8 in the paint.
Not great.
This keeps getting
It
better.
was tough.
Keeps getting
Tough
better.
night.
All right, we're back tomorrow. You got basketball later today on Jocks, Paul Feinbaum, but not until you hear from Three Man Front, which comes up next.